we're gonna get started with our program. You should have a copy at your table of our agenda for the day. So please welcome Reverend Jason Curry.
Let us pray. Eternal God, we pause this afternoon to say thank you. From the bottom of our hearts, to the depths of our souls, we give thanks to you for all that you have done for this beloved institution, for all that you are doing so that we might reach heights yet unknown, and for all that you shall do in the life of Fisk University so that we might continue to be a beacon light of progress and hope for institutions and people throughout this world. Dear God, this morning we say thank you. From the rising of the sun until the going down of the same, you are still worthy to be praised. Today, oh God, we give thanks for this building community continuing the legacy of Rosenwald Schools Tennessee Symposium. We thank you, oh God, for the significant and the esteemed role that the Rosenwald Schools have occupied throughout the course of history. And we thank you, oh God, for the visionaries who made these institutions possible. We thank you for their faculty and their administrators who endured great sacrifices so that their students might excel in all areas. And lastly, oh God, we thank you for the students who benefited from these institutions. And we thank you and praise you for their remarkable contributions to society. My prayer on today is that you might continue to bless and smile upon all of these institutions and smile upon all of those who are benefiting from them. Allow those of us who still value them to continue to work in tandem with others so as to continue to create a bright future for the students who shall benefit from them. It's in Jesus' name that I pray, amen. Amen.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Natara Garvin, the Vice President of Student Affairs here at Fisk University. On behalf of our interim president, Mr. Frank L. Sims, our faculty, staff, and students, we welcome you to the historic campus of Fisk University. We are excited about the partnership with the Tennessee State Museum and the exciting opportunities it has brought to Fisk and the surrounding community. We are also happy to welcome Dr. DeLisa Williams of the National Museum of African American History and Culture and our very own Dr. Jocelyn Imani with the Trust for Public Land. We hope that during your time on the campus, you feel the magnetic energy that welcomes you into the Fisk family.
Good afternoon again. Thank you so much for being here today. This symposium has been in the works for quite some time. And myself here at Fisk University and the John Hope Aurelia E. Franklin Library are so excited for today to welcome you to our campus in our historic Jubilee Hall, in our Appleton Room, and hopefully you got to stop by the library. This endeavor is something that we pride ourselves on in connecting with our communities, both in the North Nashville area, but also extended out across the state. And we're so happy that we've had the opportunity to partner with the Tennessee State Museum on the recent Rosenwald exhibit and now this symposium. I want to acknowledge my colleagues who are here, who work with me in the library, Ms. Deanna Layden, Mr. Joshua Williams, when I call your name, just wave, Ms. Skylar Carter, Ms. Joanna Soderberg, and my team from the Rosenwald Project. As we move through today, our purpose and our mission and our goal with today's symposium is to provide information on resources and access to our Rosenwald collections and information for the community to use as you take back to your homes to preserve your Rosenwald schools. And maybe some of you don't have a Rosenwald school that you're connected to, but you do have a schoolhouse that you, in your community that you grew up attending, or a place that you know that represents history and a legacy for the African American community in your town. And if so, we want to be here to, as a resource, and provide you with information so that you are, have the tools and the knowledge to go forth and continue to carry out the work that you've been doing, and also to share with future generations so that they can carry your work and your legacy on. So thank you again for being here. I'm so happy, I'm so thrilled, I'm so honored. Yes, so welcome.
I'm Ashley Howell, and I'm the executive director of the Tennessee State Museum. And on behalf of the State Museum, I too welcome you to the symposium. But more than that, I want to extend a special thanks to Fisk University for hosting us here today. As DeLisa was stating, we have been talking and partnering in the past several months on the current exhibition at the State Museum and also on this symposium. And it was one day when we were sitting in the library probably a year and a half ago, and you know how those meetings go on an afternoon, probably like today, and you'd say, what if we could get everybody in the same room? What if we could share resources, we could ask questions, we could provide information? How can we do that? What if we could do that? So the what if went to how can. And that how can is what brings us here today. And I think it is a true testament to the importance of connections, relationships, the work that is happening across the state. It's such a privilege and an honor to represent an institution, to be a part of this ongoing conversation with you. There are a couple of people here I would also like to thank because I am one of many. The Tennessee State Museum team, many are here today. The curatorial team, Janae Chapman, Dr. Miranda Braley Rhodes, Debbie Shaw, who may be still checking in, some folks because I didn't see her. Also, our program team, Morgan Byrne, Joyska Nunez-Medina, and Jacob and Jeff Sellers. And if I'm forgetting somebody, just raise your hand. So we have folks in the parking lots helping, we have folks outside. But also a part of the how can, in addition to Fisk University, is our funding partners, Humanities Tennessee and the Tennessee State Museum Foundation. So thank you so much for your support, and we look forward to continuing the conversation of how can and how we continue to work together, how we continue to share Tennessee history, and how we can continue to preserve history across the state. Thank you.
So as you'll see on our program, we have some time. So we are going to take a pause here and let people who are still coming in, people who are here already, kind of finish your lunch or start your lunch. And then also, if you see people that you know or you want to mingle, network, say hello, please feel free to do that now. I'm going to turn back on the jazz music, and then once our panelists are ready, then we can start back up. Sound good? We're going to get started with our first panel session. Thank you, Dr. Imani. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I hope you all enjoyed your lunch. I had a suggestion from the audience. So following our first session, we're going to do some introductions so we can just see who's in the room, our alumni groups. Even if you're not, if you're representing the organization or you just stop by, we're going to kind of go around table. So just prepare yourself for after our session. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our two panelists for this first session. They're my fellow Fiskites, both Fisk graduates, as well as myself. So I'm happy to have them here today, and they're doing amazing things. I'll start with Dr. Dorita Williams. She currently serves as the Center Director of the Robert F. Smith Center for the Digitization and Curation of African American History at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Prior to her appointment at NAMOC, she was the project director for the DC Africana Archives Project at the George Washington University. And she's also served as executive director of the Black Archives of Mid-America in Kansas City, my hometown. Dorita is also a graduate of Fisk University, which I mentioned, here in Nashville, and she received her PhD in American Studies from the University of Kansas. Dr. Jocelyn Imani, who is a storyteller, educator, and community builder, has over a decade of experience as a public historian. She joined as the National Director of Black History and Culture for the Trust for Public Land in 2022. In her work, she's focused on reimagining how Black history and culture sites are activated and aims to make shared spaces more relevant and accessible to all populations. Prior to joining TPL, Dr. Imani spent time as an interpretive ranger with the National Park Service and served as historian at the Ulysses S. Grant National Historic Site. Dr. Imani holds a PhD in African Diaspora and Public History from Howard University, come on HBCU, and a BA from History from Fisk University. And she's also a member of the Nashville Metro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Please welcome our panelists to the stage.
We also used to work together. Yeah. I used to work at our museum.
And ladies, I'll just ask if you could move your microphones close to you. We are recording this program for the future of sharing. So we want to ensure that our recording catches your wonderful words.
Excellent.
So we'll get started with this panel today. You know, I introduce you, but obviously people want to hear from you a little bit about yourselves, your values, and the organizations you work for, and just what some of the things that you do as national program directors. Dr. Williams?
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, first of all, it's so wonderful to be here on the campus of Fisk University and to be back here to give back, because I feel that Fisk gave so much to me. So being in this room today and really thinking about the preservation of local histories hits me special being here on Fisk campus. So what we do at our long title is the Center for the Digitization and Curation of African American History. We call ourselves the Smith Center. We are generously funded by Mr. Robert F. Smith. And what we do is we are a public history, digital humanities, outward-facing service to communities that are preserving their local histories. And so we really concentrated on digitization, both for moving images and media and photographs. We also concentrate on genealogy. We have a genealogy center at the National Museum on the second floor that we manage. And we also have an internship and fellowship program. And we use those interns and fellows to help diversify the field of museums and archives and cultural centers, because the great work that we're doing now, someone has to continue the work. So we're working to nurture the upcoming and fabulous generations of scholars. There's nothing like being around hope and youth, if y'all know, and seeing how excited they are about the work that we're doing. So that's what we do. We are a national museum. We are a center within the National Museum that's really focused on local communities throughout the country.
Thank you. And then, am I next? Am I answering the same question?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Trust for Public Land. Did you?
Yeah.
We're gonna play this video. Do you
Yeah.
want to play her video first and then play mine?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot we have a video to play.
I'll go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. This is
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
This is a good introduction of the Trust for Public Land that we will share in a moment. In the meantime, this picture was taken in the great state of Kansas. She's from next door. She's from Kansas City. She likes to not claim the Kansas side.
It's close.
This is one of our sites that we worked in, Nicodemus National Historic Site. Anybody familiar with Nicodemus? Anybody?
Yes.
Most of y'all did not raise your hand. If you've never been to Nicodemus, it's a trek. You got to drive to a city and then drive a bit into the western Kansas prairie. But it is the oldest, I would say it's the oldest and only still existing fully black town west of the Mississippi. It's beautiful. So anyway, play the video.
Do we need to move out the way? Can you see us? We're good? Can you see through me? Should I get it?
Okay. So the Trust for Public Land is a 50-year-old nonprofit committed to increasing everyone's access to the outdoors. So the stat I was sitting in front of was there's 100 million Americans that don't have access to a park within 10 minutes of your house. Within that 100 million, there's 28 million children. So within that large portfolio of sites that we've protected, a lot of it, so we're land conservation, so a lot of our sites have been like Yosemite, Yellowstone, big, wide open spaces. But also within that portfolio have been a number of black historic sites, cultural sites, parks like Nicodemus, like Martin Luther King National Historical Park. So an easy way to explain what I do. Have any of you ever been to Martin Luther King National Historical Park in Atlanta? Show of hands. Okay, y'all should go, it's 4 hours down the road. But it is, you can go to Martin Luther King's birthplace, but then you can also walk around the neighborhood that Martin Luther King would have lived in, the way it looks, because Trust for Public Land bought the block. So that's where land conservation and history and historic preservation all intersect. Somebody's got to do the real estate transactions. Somebody's got to develop the park. Somebody's got to hire the landscape architects, and that's the piece that we play. So in my role, I'm in a new role, but in my role, my job is to lead that action across the country. TPL has been mostly, it's pretty white, land conservation, his organization. And in 2019, when our leadership started doing our first strategic plan, they realized there was a value in focusing on Black sites, that it had been here and there in field offices as opportunities arose, but without any cohesion or strategic plan. Then 2020 happened and the world exploded. So they were like, no, we really have to do this now. So they raised a whole bunch of money and hired me. And now I'm here, and I've been doing this for a year and a quarter, and it has been, oh, you have that up. All right, so all of this, when I explained to the staff who they hired, this is me with my great-grandfather. I'm a community member. I'm a scholar. That's the day I finished at Howell University. At times I've been an artist. And this is me when I was Ranger Jocelyn as a practitioner. All of those perspectives influence the way that I lead this work nationwide, the stories that I tell. And what I believe should be preserved about our history. Briefly, I'll just say I'm looking at self-determination as the primary driving factor in which stories we tell. If you think about, and you can go to where those trees were real quick, and then I'll wrap up this question. Yeah, so just real quick. The National Register of Historic Places has 100,000 sites on it. What % do you think tell a Black story? 5?
2.
1, 2, pick the next slide.
3.
3. That's 3%, and it's actually a little less than 3. I'm working through the list we got from our friends at the National Park Service. But of those 3% Black stories that are being told through the National Register of Historic Places, my guess is that most of them are going to be told through the lens of the oppression that Black people have had to endure, as opposed to the ways that we've built and maintained community in spite of it. So my guess is that it's a lot of slavery and civil rights stories not told from our point of view. And the next level of it is what's the quality of those stories, but also what's the quality of those sites. If you think about when you go to Black historic sites, are the exhibits well done? Is the facility together? Do they have enough staff? Are all the light bulbs in the ceiling? These are the types of questions that I'm working through. So I'll stop there because we have more to get to, but that's an overview of what we do.
Thank you both, and feel free to pick up the mic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's kind of a little bit harder for the back to hear. Thank you. And so, Dr. Williams, we'll go back to you, and I'll pull your video up.
Okay, sure. I'll give you a little introduction. One of our signature events is what we call community curation, where we go to a city or a region to help those individuals. This is, so now I have my DJ. Go DJ, that's my DJ. So what we do is we go into the communities and we help preserve those local histories. And it's a dynamic event that we do. The video that you will see is from our Chicago event where we were there for about 6 weeks. So the whole team, we have a team of about 15 people, and we go and we actually live in the city and we work with different institutions. In Chicago, we worked with the Black Metropolis Research Consortium, which consisted of the DuSable Museum, Chicago State, different smaller organizations to help preserve those histories. And we work with the institutions as well as communities. And in order to do these things, we have to stand on a code of ethics for our team. And one is we do not accession when we're on the road. This is for community service only. So when people bring their items in to digitize, we don't accession as the Smithsonian. We have a special MOU that allows us to digitize and simply return the whatever hard drive or thumb drive and their materials back for those families and individuals. For institutions, we do the similar work. We do have it's a stronger MOU that we help support the digitization, storage, and delivery of those items. But it's a special way that we work so that we are not extractive in communities and that we are equitable. Because one thing that we see is, and Fisk has gone through it, other institutions have gone through it, to where a company or organization will come through and say, we will digitally preserve your items, but now we have ownership of some. And there are institutions that have lost access to all of their archives because of something that they signed just to get those items preserved. And it's something that I stand on when I was hired, that we cannot do that anymore. And you see there are all of these conversations about Smithsonian and other museums that do extractive kind of work, and so our project does not do that. So what you'll see in the video is an explanation of what we do when we're on the road, but specifically what we did in Chicago. So I really hope you enjoy it. Should we step out?
I'm going.
All right. Okay.
Every individual, every family, every community has a story. At the National Museum of African American History and Culture, we want to give individuals, families, and communities the opportunity to share their stories with current and future generations. And through the Community Curation Program, we strive to do just that. The innovative program, hosted by the Center for the Digitization and Curation of African American History, invites the public to have their personal flat arts and audiovisual materials digitized by our expert staff. Photographs and tintypes, recipes and diplomas, audio recordings, and home videos. These are the things we hold dear, and taken together are individual stories to find our collective history. But these items have shelf lives that are shorter than one would think. By digitizing community materials and sharing the stories behind them, we can ensure that everyday American history is preserved. To bring the Community Curation Program to life, the museum collaborates with archiving institutions across the country. In 2019, the museum worked with the Black Metropolis Research Consortium and its member institutions to host community curation in Chicago. At each stop, we will free digitization sessions, workshops on genealogy and preservation, and morning programs exploring the history and culture of the local community. In Chicago, those interactions led us to stories that were at once incredibly universal and deeply personal. And the Center for the Digitization and Curation of African American History is grateful that communities continue to trust us to preserve and share these treasures. I heard that the opportunity to digitize all this stuff and keep it in one place was available. I could not come. So here I am with what remains of
sorry for this side chatter. That video always moves me every time I see it because of this idea of generational, passing down your history through generations, and that's one thing that we aspire to do. I will say that we will be here, can we move to the Fisk? We will be here next month for community curation. Fisk, my fabulous alma mater, will be our host. So if you're here and you're in the area, you will receive information about it and ways to sign up for digitization. Now, the fabulous thing about what we're doing this year is we're bringing, my team is already big. Angela Winan is here. She's our administrator for community curation, so she is here. We're a team of about 15 people. I will tell you, we're bringing half the museum. We're not only digitizing, we're also offering what we call Hometown Treasures. Hometown Treasures comes from the Saving Our African American Treasures program that was launched before the building was even built, before the National Museum existed. And it was a way to help communities to preserve their actual objects and items, also to do some accessioning for the museum. So now it's called Hometown Treasures, so they will be on the road with us. So individuals who bring their items can not only bring their media and their photos, but they can also bring their objects to be rehoused and be evaluated. We will also have what we call a seat at the table, which will be in this room, where we discuss issues of social justice, and we're looking at social justice through the eyes of local histories. That will be here with us. We will also be screening one of our documentaries. God Talk will be screened here at Vanderbilt. So the goal is to take what we do at the museum and take it to communities and share what we do. And so we're really excited about that. So if you're in this room, you're in this region, you will get information about community curation.
So let's talk about some of the priorities for your organization and maybe some of your current users and audiences. And how you've been focusing that work. And I'll start with Dr. Imani, because I know that you've been on the road. You've been on the road.
I live on planes.
Including in Tennessee.
Yeah, I definitely live on planes and in rental cars. So this is a scheme of TPL's current strategic plan. It is chaotic. So we're about a 355 people spread across the country. We are from Hawaii to New York. And you will go back one more slide. Go back to the last one. So this is what I inherited, that we do parks, lands, trails, schoolyards for communities impacting their health, climate, equity, and we do it through these tools. So we do projects, we do lobbying and advocacy. We have a big federal relations piece. And then we also have a research arm. Every year we produce something called Park Score. And Park Score, you can put in whatever your city is. We rank the top 500 cities based on how they're doing park access, how much investment has happened in their park system, et cetera, et cetera. My job is, the easiest way to explain it is to, all of this work, I just put a black lens on all of it. Because if we're talking about climate, the people who are impacted the most are black and brown, poor people. If we're talking about equity, black and brown, poor people. If we're talking about health disparities, we're talking about black people. So, and we also have, I should name, we have a tribal and indigenous lands program as well. And my counterpart, he just got hired, we talk a lot. But even in that, I'm like, there's black indigenous people, right? We should, and their experience, even within indigeneity, is different because of the way white supremacy manifests. So hit the next slide, please. Okay, so this is a working map of just my work. So the orange pieces are active projects. We actually just reopened the Medgar and Merle Evers Home National Monument in June. Really excited about that. These green ones are previous sites. work that we completed before 2020 has a hollow star. Work that we completed in or after 2020 has a darkened star, and then orange projects are active. You see, there's a huge gap west of the Mississippi. One of my priority areas is to figure that out. I was in Oregon last week and in Massachusetts, because New England, once you look at New England, there's some gaps up there too. But I know that black people built this country. We built it in Rosenwald Schools and black churches and HBCUs, and so our stories are everywhere. So in terms of the audiences, I'm looking at community stakeholders who we have to have a willing seller, because we don't steal anybody's land. We have to have a willing buyer, because we don't own the land, which is somebody who's going to steward it long term, even if they're not going to put the money up, because then there's a path to funding. So my whole thing is sifting through all of these black networks that I'm in, figuring out who can steward the land long term. So, for example, I was in Massachusetts. Actually, before I was in Massachusetts, I was in Portland, and I met a community group that uses land. They feed people, Black Food Sovereignty Coalition, Feed 'em Freedom. They do amazing work. They have a willing seller. They have their willing buyer. They don't have a path to funding. That's actually not the hardest part for us, because with Trust for Public Land, we did in 2022 $8.7 billion worth of ballot measures for land projects, park projects across the country. So between federal grants, state grants, local grants, private philanthropy, we're going to find the money to get the land done. So that's current users. And did I answer the question fully? I think I did. Yeah. All right, I'll stop talking.
Could you talk a little bit? I know recently you've been working with the Uncle Nearest.
Oh yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about that, just here in Tennessee?
Yeah, the chair of my advisory board is a wonderful man by the name of Keith Weaver. If you follow Uncle Nearest, you may know his wife, Fawn Weaver, who's the founder and CEO. So Keith has been just a peach of a man, and so we launched our program at the distillery, but as a part of that launch, we unveiled a Tennessee Historical Commission monument at the Dan Call Farm. And the Dan Call Farm is the place where Nearest and Jack met. So if you know the story, and just on behalf of Uncle Nearest, although I do not work with them, I cannot speak for them, I'll just say one of the common misconceptions is that Jack owned Nearest. That's not true. Jack and Nearest both worked on a farm by a man by the name of Dan Call. Dan Call was a preacher and a bootlegger. It happens. It's Tennessee. And at one point, Call, he was a Presbyterian preacher. His wife wanted him to give up the bootlegging piece. Jack Daniel was a young boy working under Dan Call. He introduced Jack Daniel to who he called the best whiskey maker I've ever seen, which is this man by the name of Nearest Green. So that farm, that original still site, if you want, I can send you the clip of that work. Was really moving, because we poured libation at that original site and blessed it. And there's something really special about the land. There's something really special about the land. I won't go on and on about it, but I'll just say it was quite moving. And one thing I will say, just because I'm a native Tennessean and I want to make sure this is known, does anybody know the difference between Kentucky bourbon and Tennessee whiskey? One person. The difference is a step in the distilling process that is called the Lincoln County process. And Google this. The Lincoln County process is where you take the liquid and you filter it through charcoal. That process you see in West Africa pre-slave trade as a way to purify water. That's probably from Nearest Green. Our history matters, man. Yeah. It's deep. And it's just an honor, and I'm sure y'all feel this way. It's an honor to steward it, to tell these stories, to unearth these treasures, and help us remember who we are.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So, just going back a little bit and just thinking about the audience we have today and our community here with Rosenwald School alumni and preserving those stories, how might we envision as stewards of either a collection or an alumni group or community members working in partnership with your different projects? And yeah, I mean, what are some things resources or things that you would recommend, or how we could connect, or yeah.
Great. Well, the great thing about the work that we do is we are mobile. We can go anywhere we're needed. And here's just a list of different procedures and tools that we have developed just to get this work done. Community curation platform. I will not be mad if you pull out your phone or your tablet right now and log on to communitycuration.org. Will not bother me. Log on to that, star it, bookmark it so you have it. This is a site that we offer for institutions and communities as an instant response to support. The one thing that we try to do is bridge the gaps in service, and providing a site that allows institutions and families and communities to instantly start to preserve their history is the greatest thing that we can do. And so if you log on there, that's a wonderful site, a wonderful place for some of the schools represented here and the research that's been done to create an account and to begin to upload that information. You can reach out to other schools for them to add information on there as well. You can upload pictures, short videos and what have you, but it's a great space, and it's supported by Smithsonian, so it has a national reach. It's a great way to do that, and it's an instant response. When someone calls and says they need support, that's my response first. The second thing we do is what we call Community Archiving Workshop, and the Community Archiving Workshop was developed by a couple of our team members. Here's the issue. We have great resources. We have great equipment. However, if an institution is not prepared to really use those resources, then we all fall short. So what the Community Archiving Workshop allows us to do, it allows us to go into those institutions and help dig through the boxes with you. The team will go to your institution, your community, and help you go through those collections. We've been working very closely with the St. Paul's College Museum and Archive in Brunswick, Virginia. St. Paul's College was an HBCU that closed in 2013. And they closed in a horrible fashion. They were told that, you know what, we just got to get our money together, hang on, don't pack up, don't go anywhere, and then they never opened again. And when you go on that campus, some of the buildings have fallen apart, but if you look through some of the buildings, it looks like someone's coming back tomorrow. And so a lot of the alumni, some community members and members in county elected positions started to reach out and say, we need to put a group together to preserve this. And so our team has been one of those teams to go down on a regular basis to help them review those collections. And we recently, about a year and a half ago, one of our media team leaders, C.K. Ming, found a silent film that was filmed on campus as the students were building the campus in 1920. They knew it existed, and at the end of the day, we just rushed into this room. We're all tired because we've been, digging through boxes and listening and looking at things, and we play this, and it's a silent film of the students who are like building brick by brick the buildings of the college campus. So it's what people and institutions are missing. They're missing the staff. They're missing the time, they're missing the funding and the equipment. And so what we try to do is make sure that we're bridging all those gaps. I tell DeLisa, when we get here in October, the whole group, the greatest thing I like about it is when I'm gonna walk into that library, DeLisa and all of her staff will be doing what they do on a regular basis, and our team will be behind the scenes getting the work done. Because we also don't want to be a burden, right? We want to be able to actually bridge the gaps and make those things work. So community creation platform, the community archiving workshop, equipment hubs, we're working to provide different institutions and communities with equipment to do their own work so that we can only be so many places. And how do we use the funds that we have? So we have 4 pilot sites that we're working on to get them that equipment. And then, of course, the community curation platform. When we come to the city, we come to your region or what have you, and provide the service for institutions and communities. So that is how we could partner with the Rosenwald Schools or with other community organizations. One is to get on that community curation platform, reach out to us. If you need a community archiving workshop, we can put that on our calendar. We're very mobile, very mobile. And, you know, getting on the cycle of equipment hubs. So you have my information. I do have cards today. Those are the ways I think that we can partner together that have immediate results. Because one thing, time is a problem. And it's a problem when you can't respond immediately. And so we try to make sure we have different tiers of response. Immediate, long-term, creating these relationships that are stable, and things that we can build on. So we will make sure to connect.
Ask me the question again.
Yeah, so how might we envision our work in relationship to your work?
Okay, so we'll give you a couple of abstract things and a couple of real things. Context. Last week, when I was in Portland, I was there for the Land Trust Alliance rally. The Land Trust Alliance is the accrediting body for all land trusts in the country. So if you ever hear this land trust is an accredited land trust, it means like they're not going to steal your money, they're not going to rip you off. And the Land Trust Alliance does that. Trust for Public Land is a founding member of the Land Trust Alliance. I had never been before. Part of how I see my job, and anybody who knows me personally in this room knows this kind of how I roll. Whenever I go places, I just bring a bunch of black people with me. All right, let's go. So that's what I did at the Land Trust Alliance. I identified a few of our partners across the country. There are folks doing amazing things with the land. They're feeding people, they're employing people, they're getting folks off drugs, they're getting people job skills. I mean, it's amazing things that are happening with the land, far more amazing than what I do behind these computers with this email. So I called them, say, hey, let's have a meeting before this, because I want to get a sense of how to help y'all dream. So my work is history and culture. The history sites, I got it. I'm a trained historian. I understand how to do it. But using the land to better the culture is foreign to me. So let me, instead of me telling y'all what y'all need, let me listen to y'all what y'all need, and then invite y'all to this conference if you want to come. Unfortunately, what happened in that room, I thought I was going to have 16, 17. I ended up having about 34 people, which was beautiful. But in that room, of that 34, maybe 6 were able to consistently dream. We kept getting a lot of internalized depression. Kept getting a lot of, this what happened to me. Kept getting a lot of, this what they said. Meanwhile, I'm here. I'm the manifestation of the dreams you dreamt. Here, building the table that I can for you to tell me what you want, because I'm going to ask for it. And we couldn't get it out. So, I need you to dream your biggest dream. Beyond what you understand the process is to be, just following your own logic of what the stories that you have, because there's money out here. There's resources out here. Yeah. We ain't got our equal share, but that's okay. Because I'm a millennial, but them Gen Zs, they not playing. I don't know if you met some Gen Z, they're fired up little bunch. They're going to get what's ours, period, right? So that's number one. Dream past the oppression, past what happened, in terms of what you want, the land, the sites, the artifacts, the image, what you want it to do. Preserve it for why. We feel why, but we're not always articulating why. And then teach your children. Because I'm living a dream. I never imagined this for myself. I'm sure you never imagined this for yourself. You're I know you didn't think you was gonna be doing this job. Because I was in school with you. This was not the path, right? But God has a way of being supreme and divine and articulate and specific in the ways that we are guided and led, right? And so, but what I've seen, unfortunately, in my career is too often, like the frontline storytellers may be Black, but the people who determine the money and the people who determine the schedules or determine what the script says are often white. Even at that wonderful Black museum that I love so much, when you get into exhibition design and the rules and who writes the policies, those are not our people. Those are not our culture. So I need you to teach your children. Civic engagement is important, and I'm gonna get to the more tangible thing next. With the civic engagement, I was talking to our dear sister friend, Turkaya Lowe, who's the principal historian of the National Park Service. She is absolutely brilliant. We were all here about 6 weeks ago for the Association of African American Museums Conference. And one of the things that she mentioned is the desecration that we see. Those of us who have had access to the documents, to the rules, and even something as simple as, I was talking with my colleagues about how we're planning to scope out the price of a project, and they mentioned that the real estate law labor is going to take more on some of these Black projects because of the way systemic racism has manifested in the deeds.
Yeah.
Like, y'all didn't do the deeds right? Damn. You know, and I was tore up that day, but in terms of that piece, so there's I can tell you, I'm going to tell you next what I can do, but there's a lot I need you. Like, it's only so many of us that are in this field. We need community partners to be aware and informed and to be able to see when we're telling you, here's the rules we gotta abide by, to be able to read through it, because everybody's not as transparent as we are. Some people are giving you the runaround. But then sometimes, you know, it's complicated. So the last piece, in terms of the projects, so my recipe is really simple. It's a willing seller, a willing buyer, and a path to funding, right? So if there is a site, there is a push, I'm sure you're aware, to make the Rosenwald site a national monument. I know a couple of people that are involved in that effort. I did a letter, I think I did a letter of support or a statement of support for, I don't know. We did something out of federal affairs. That's pushing, I'm pushing for that on a national level. But if there are individual schools, individual sites, tracts of land that are at the threat of deterioration, let me know. But it can't be where you fight with the landowner, because we're not activists, all right? I can't fight them. Right? You got to fight them, and then when the fight is over, let me know. Right? Because we can't maintain that position. But then also, if there's a piece of land and you're not really sure who owns it, if you can get yourselves together in a formation that looks like you can deal with the ongoing stewardship of the land or pull the pieces together, I'm down to help. But I can't invest time and resources to something that's going to fall apart because it was like an idea, but nobody caught it. Because then that's a waste of everybody's time. I hope that is helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Imani. Thank you. So I think we're at the point now where, you know, this conversation is really, you know, about you sharing information, resources, but we also want to hear from the attendees here, because this is a time you have access to some really great people, knowledgeable people, and maybe it's not connected to their organization, but they know about other organizations and can talk a little bit about this work. So I invite you to come to the microphone up front, and if you have questions, comments, please do so now. We'll open up the floor. Is that good?
Sure.
Okay. And we've got some time. We're running ahead, so we got some time. So if you need to write down your question or just gather yourself, we're all family here. This is the Fisk family right now.
Yay.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Please join us at the microphone.
So first, I just want to thank you for your time, your effort. Graduate of Fisk University, independent curator, dedicated the last 10 years of my curatorial career, specifically to the South, telling cultural memory stories. So I guess my question for both of you is, as a curator, I see that there's a growing interest in digitization, and there are going to be new stories that have to be told. Where do you see the role as an independent curator or institutions to have the environment to tell stories? Like, what does that connection look like? Because what I find is that if all of this stuff is digitized, but we don't have a way to shape and frame the story, right? You know, what are we doing with that? And I'm currently working Fisk University with the Rosenwald collection to think about future projects, like from a curatorial lens. Like, yes, we digitize all of this,
Right.
but like, how do we present it to people to experience it in a real way? So I guess the question I'm asking is, as you're dealing with, you know, the growing field of digital humanities is growing, where do you see the role as not just curator in the sense of like the official term, but even the curator of someone's family, the person who archives the recipes, who holds the records of the obituaries and the Bibles? Like, what do you see that role or the future of what that role is going to look like as more cultural memory is being digitized and accessible?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. That's what I ask myself every day. Like, what do we do next? And I'll just talk about one thing that we're using this work for is to challenge existing narratives in new places. And I think a lot about when we go to these different cities and communities and the material we're preserving and the conversations we're having with families and with people and professionals in the field, I'm like, we can use this to challenge whatever narrative is on, like, the Visitors Bureau website, you know, those things that the signs when it comes to I even think of like rest stops or, you know, things that where we need to really challenge the narrative that is in existence, and using that to go to your elected officials, go to the cultural centers, and take the history that you receive in the communities and place it in these public spaces, whether digital, online, or in the community. We work with one organization called Shorefront Legacy in Evanston, Illinois, and Dino Robinson, who's actually not there anymore, but he built a wonderful program to go through and research the history of Black people in Evanston and use that to create monuments within that area of the families and the people in those spaces. He also used it to actually request space for different cultural institutions. Like, he presented it saying, this Black family, there's a AME church there, Ebenezer AME church in Evanston, or Baptist. Anyway, he was using that information that he digitized and preserved in the oral histories that he did with those families of that church to have that space designated as a historical space. Like, these are the things that we need to do. Yes, we're preserving, but what do we do next? And we take these narratives that we've gathered and put them in spaces and challenge those narratives that have excluded Black history. So that's one thing that we're doing, you know, with that material. And then when you think about preserving the information and putting it into museums, right? I mean, that is a very big thing as well, to make sure that those stories are fully told. And you brought up that thing about who's writing the narratives when it comes to behind the scenes. Like, you go and you see a great exhibit, like, who's written that? And so to be able to make sure that those narratives are correct and those narratives are inclusive of those histories that are gathered in communities. So really taking that material and pushing it forward to make sure that those narratives are in the public and are challenging those existing narratives that exclude Black people.
Thank you. And then part two for you, Dr. Money, is you spoke to something earlier I think that was really powerful. I would love for you to speak more about, is So I'm a descendant of 40 acres of land, as you know, in East Texas. We just turned it into Crockett, Texas. We just, turned it, created a trust so the land could never be sold. But I just want to ask a question of when you see those millennials or Gen Zs that are really interested in their ancestral land, right? Before, maybe grandma can't do anything with the land, but now people are really thinking about ways to dream. You spoke of something earlier that sometimes you can dream only so far with your oppressive thoughts, right? James Baldwin always says, like, self-hate real estate, right? It works on itself. What have you seen as possible dreaming tools or agents to help people to navigate that? Or even when you're advocating, right? Because, many times when we're so focused on the urbanity, right? I think COVID made people think about space in a different way, but now people are thinking about rural space. But what are some of those tools that you've seen in conversation? I know it's a newer role and new space that you're venturing into to help people to dream about, what do I do with the land? Like, not just beyond just ownership. I think that's the big thing now, is like, I own this or buy the block, but it's like, how do we actually activate, like, space making? And just want to know if you had any insights or maybe collected any insights as you've been talking to different groups as you travel.
That's a good question.
That's a lot. I'm going to try. I'm going to try. So Monday, today's Friday, right? Today's Friday? Okay, so Monday of this week, I had this honor. I sat on a plot of land in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. She already know. Which I sat in what would have been the living room where W.E.B. Du Bois grew up. The building doesn't exist anymore. It was amazing. It was amazing.
It's amazing.
The building is gone, been gone. In fact, Du Bois couldn't save the building when he was alive.
Wow.
Du Bois got the building as a gift for one of his birthdays, like maybe his 60th birthday, and he had always wanted to fix it up. He loved this house. He called it the House of the Black Burkharts. But he couldn't save the land, which,
wow,
it was something about that for me. Like, Du Bois couldn't save the land. All that's left of this plot of land is a chimney that Du Bois was able to add before he died onto this house, and it's crumbling. And I sat, the University of Massachusetts in Amherst now owns this place. And the plot is not that big. It's like a regular house plot. There's somebody who lives there right now to the left and somebody who lives there right now to the right. On the other side of that plot is a parking lot. And what they have done, I don't know if it's 5 lots total or if it's 3. I don't know. I got to talk to the sister who does it to find out. But they basically did a trail, a half-mile trail through the woods around this neighbor to the right. So it's like a U into what would have been the living room. And it's just a wood platform.
Wow.
To your point about digitizing images, the images on the waysides is what brings the thing to life, right? There's a rock that people did in the 70s when they tried to do a Du Bois national thing, but there's no real there. But the reason I mention this place is because I sat there. I sat there. I thought it was just going to be a quick, let me look, let me see it, boom, boom, got it, cool, let me get back on the road because I got to get to Amherst. But the place, like, pulled me.
Yeah.
And I sat there for like an hour. Yeah. And I dreamed a dream. Like, and I have to realize that a lot of times we're trying to look for new when really we should just be remembering old. I'm trying to do better. If you remember, your grandparents used to just be sitting on the porch, not really looking at anything, not really, just be sitting. I'm like, what are y'all doing? I get it now. I did that yesterday.
Yeah.
I got off a whole day full of Zoom calls and I said I had enough.
Yeah.
Let me just go sit.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I listened to the birds, and I watched the squirrels, and I let my thoughts come to me, right? So in terms of the ways that we dream dreams about the land, I really think we have to return to the ways of home and the ways of old. I know some good saved Christians in here, but even when you read the Christian Bible, when Jesus is experiencing the transfiguration and he's talking to Moses, ain't that him talking to his ancestors? Ain't that?
Yeah.
So how do we quiet ourselves down in this modern world to listen? That's really it for me. And I think our ancestors, I tell students all the time, your ancestors want their stories told. They want to be remembered. So if you listen, if you pray, I invoke a lot of spirituality into my historical practice. I pour libations, I ask for safe journey, I ask for folks to come into the path. I strive to, there's a responsibility in all of this. And I strive to tell people all the time, I'm not just one person. I'm so many people. There's so many dreams deposited in me that I just trying to make them all proud, right? And so I think, I know this is a long way. Just a note on Black spaces, I wrote this down to share with you. There's a great piece of some writing, I guess it's a category, Brent Leggs, B-R-E-N-T, last name L-E-G-G-S. He wrote something called Preserving African American Spaces. And he talks about the fact that a lot of Black buildings are not meant to last. You're sitting in the first permanent building expressly built for the purpose of educating Black people in the South. The first one. So this the idea of that's only 1873. Think about all the other makeshift buildings that existed before that we don't have any record of. So going back to the place, that's where it's sitting down in the place, asking for that journey, that safe passage in your journey, asking for that revelation, and just sitting down and trying to dream that dream. I hope I help. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we get our questions in, so if you could not limit, I don't want to say limit, that's not the word. We're just going to work together as a family.
Let's just try.
Just make sure that everybody in here has a chance if they want to. And then these sisters will also be around, so.
Yeah.
One quick
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
At the present time, in Sumner County, just north of here, we have a one-teacher Rosenwald School that the National Park Service is interested in acquiring. We have this building on the National Register of Historic Places already. We also have a Tennessee historical marker on the lawn. And we have also had the Lowe's Trust Foundation grant 12, 13 years ago that we used to restore this facility. We had the foundation, the rock foundation redone. If the school was jacked up and the new foundation installed, the windows were removed, taken into Franklin where they were reglazed and reinstalled. Wow. The little building is just pristine.
What's the address?
And the National Park Service now wants it. And to be very honest, the community where it's sitting is dying. The African Americans in the community now are 3 or 4 houses of African Americans left.
Of course.
It is, we use it as a community center in name more than in use. We are unsure because the people that are left in the community are elderly. What happens to the facility once they are gone? What are the pros in turning it over to the National Park Service versus holding on to it? Because holding on to it, other than for preservation, what happens after us? We have no young board members. My husband, who attended that school for 8 years, and I am 2 of the younger ones, and you can see we are not young. So there's a part of me that says, put it in the hands make it the responsibility of the National Park Service to preserve and to hold on to, and there's a part of me that says, oh no. The African Americans in this community raised the first $700 of the $1,900 that the building cost to build in 1922. So I am in a quandary, as is my husband. What do you suggest?
Oh, mercy. First, I will talk to y'all afterward. Right. I want to make sure that I can put you in touch with the Tennessee State Director for Trust for Public Land, a guy by the name of Noel Durant, because there's some pros and cons. You know, like I mentioned, we just reopened Medgar and Merle Evers' home, National Monument. Tougaloo had the home for a bunch of years. It was just, man, God bless our people. They just running folk all through. Ain't no protocol. Things wasn't preserved. That's a problem. That happens a lot. Same thing happened in Bethune. But when the Park Service, I think the Park Service acquired it about 10 years ago, and it just sat.
Yeah. Ooh.
That happens.
Yeah.
Because the Park Service is just like every other government agency.
Slow.
Underfunded, slow, understaffed, where, think about any federal agency you deal with and how slow it is.
Yeah.
And how tricky it is and how much red tape. Same thing happens for the Park Service. So and this is part of a section of the work that I'm doing. Both our Southeast office is doing something called the Alliance of Civil Rights Sites, where we're helping the Park Service to expedite some of this stuff. But then I'm doing a research project, because when we talk about the sites on the National Register being off, the black sites within the National Park Service don't have all the resources they need either. I know, because I've worked in some of them, right? Even a Frederick Douglass, which is like a marquee name, don't always be up together, up to date. So there are a lot of pros and cons. It really depends on the nuance, but I would encourage you to think about a community land trust. A community land trust that y'all form. Now, the challenge is going to be that leadership pipeline. But to keep it a stacked leadership pipeline is a challenge in all institutions, like the Black College, the Black Museum, the Black Church. Like, leadership pipelines, succession planning is an evergreen challenge that we seem to conquer year after year after year. So I don't think that's the hardest thing. But I would suggest consider a community land trust. Let's talk a little bit after about which element of the National Park Service and what the terms are and what the acquisition, paperwork would say. But I don't know. There's pros and cons on both sides. It's tricky.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Hello. So my name is Amber. I am from Pennsylvania. It's a long way from home. Yes, I'm currently a graduate student here at Fisk University in clinical psychology. And I am from Lincoln University of Pennsylvania, and where the land was originally built from an old town called Hinsonville, where slaves traveled from Virginia, Maryland, and DC, and where it later became the Ashman Institute, but it later became Lincoln University. And that was from someone who advocated on my behalf. I'm 25 years old, and I have a question, and I always question myself even on this, is that for a person my age and to also spread the information that I have, how can I be an advocate to other students and who want to be informed on history? I'm not from here, I'm a long way from home, but I would like to spread the word and get more people encouraged on digitizing and preserving our history and, and how the future looks for us.
I'll take a stab at that. One thing you can do, and I will talk kind of maybe some logistics. I'm struggling with my coolness up here. Hang on. Okay, I think that's better. I would probably look like I was struggling. One thing you can do when it comes to making sure you're preparing yourself to be able to do what you're doing is look for resources for yourself first.
Yes.
because that's going to help you set a foundation so that you can do the work. And so I suggest that you first start looking at, you can go to NEH, NEA, Ford, all those different websites, and start, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the National, what is the East? Endowment for the Arts. And I'm sorry, I work at the Smithsonian, we do a lot of acronyms, I don't know what those are either. The Ford Foundation, the Mellon, and actually go through the website and see what's already been funded. Millions, billions of dollars are being sent to different organizations to be funded. See what's being funded and see where there may be job or learning opportunities for yourself first, so that you can get your resources under your belt, get whatever education you need, whatever support that you need, because that's going to, number one, it's going to pay you, because you need to be paid. Let's be paid. Get paid. That'll give you the connections you need, and that will also show you where the money is going. There's something, if you're just kind of getting started to think about these things, there's something, and I want to go back to this about self-care in this field. There's something to be said about monitoring and managing your energy. And what we need to do is look at what's existing, the funding that's already existing, the positions that may be available. So I would say start there for that. And to go back to like the emotional and spiritual part of it, to take those routes that are existing, not just because they're there, but this is a long road. And doing this type of work, and everyone in this room knows this is hard work. And it is draining, and you have to find some sort of balance. So I'm saying this to you because I want you to find your resources and support yourself for the career part, but I also want you to support yourself just in like your mind and your mental. I'm glad Angela's here, because we spent October 2022 in her hometown in New Orleans doing community curation. And we drove all over Louisiana. And it was my first real time in Louisiana. Anyway, we're driving through. In order to get to, we went to Grambling after that. In order to get there, as I learned, you kind of snake in and out of Mississippi, right? And we're driving, and I felt some kind of way. And I said, Angela, my father's family's from Sunflower County, Mississippi. I said, I wonder how close we are to Sunflower County, Mississippi. And what it was like, a minute later, we passed the sign that said, you're entering Sunflower County, Mississippi. And when you said your ancestors want you to know, they were letting me know I was in that space. I didn't even know. I don't know nothing about that area. I was like, I'm just driving, GPS is getting me to Grambling, right? And I just stopped and I said, oh my gosh, Angela, I feel some sort of way. Yeah. It was good, but it was also very heavy. It was also very heavy. So the desire you feel in your heart, and I can tell just by the way you spoke, that you really want to help spread the word, I'm going to encourage you to support yourself first. Absolutely. Find those resources, find your balance, learn what you need to learn, and you'll find those spaces when you're finding those resources to reach out and strengthen other communities, but strengthen yourself first. Be self-interested, take care of yourself.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Okay. No, you know what? We have a colleague, this beautiful sister named March, who told me, she said, Jocelyn, somebody benefits off of you hating yourself. Somebody makes money from that. So when you talk about this, one of my advisors told me yesterday, the thing about carrying the light is when you're carrying the light, you're always going to find more darkness. You're just going to keep running in the darkness, keep seeing new types of evil. And when we're talking about lifting up these stories, there's an economic benefit to black folks being enslaved, to Jim Crow, to Red Line, and all these things. So when you're lifting up these stories, which in effect highlights the equity case, to be like, run us our things, right? It is not just physical, that's spiritual. Yeah. And it's like, the more you do that, baby, it's coming. Like, hell is coming. Direct for you. And understanding that that's what this is, because that's what this is. Spiritual warfare. Yeah. And so it has to be, it's not just reading books. It's not just going to professional development workshops. It's finding DeLisas in the world. Like, this sister, when she came to the Smithsonian, I was finishing my postdoc, and I was in Northeast DC, and I was missing home. And here comes home in a person. I can't, it's like that. That's how this thing is. And I will tell you, if you're doing psychology, you need to be going to the Association of Black Psychologists meetings. Because when some of the work that I'm doing, my background is in Black Power. When I'm trying to tell these Black Power sites, Black Power did not get treated in the popular imagination like civil rights did. Civil rights leaders get to put on suits and be honored as heroes. Black Power advocates are still like outlaws, right? And they're still getting harassed. They're still, the amount of PTSD, if you saw Dear Mama, like, that's why Afeni got on crack, was because she was hunted. These things are not past. These things are not in the future. It's like right now. Yeah. And when you're talking about telling the truth and shining a light, you're talking about reversing curses. It's hard. It's hard. It's so hard.
Listen, we would, when she was at the museum, we would be in the lobby and say, this is not a good day to be in this museum. Like, we would feel it.
You could feel it.
You could feel it. You could feel it. You can feel it. You could feel it being in that museum. And Angela's there. We would see each other like on the fifth floor. And I would come around the corner and we would both be looking like this, and we were just like, yeah, we need to go somewhere. This is not whatever's going on in this building.
Energetically.
It would just be the energy. So I really hear the passion, but I really want you to support yourself first.
Yeah.
And look where the funding is and watch your energy. And then once you get yourself supported, go and spread the word, but support yourself first and get that. And it sounds selfish, it's not. It's preservation for what you want to get into.
And let me just add this last little piece. When I was in Northeast DC, when I went to Howard, I could not afford to live where the rest of the Howard students live, right? I've been a poor Negro child from East Nashville my whole life. So I lived in Northeast DC, in a hood called Trinidad, pre-gentrification. And those Negro people, those working class folks, the brothers that when I got up to go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning was in the alley drinking Ice House beer, arguing about the Redskins game, talking about where the best mambo sauce was and who did the go-go back at the Capson in '92. Them brothers loved me. They took care of me. Yeah. I remember one day being like, oh, I'm late taking my trash out because I'm late for class. They grabbed that trash and said, don't ever do that again. Everywhere you go, your people are there waiting for you. So if you love yourself, you're not afraid of yourself, you find your community. The other thing I will say, sister, what's your name? Raise your hand.
Velma Brinkley.
Sound like Miss Velma need a young person on her board. It sound like Miss Velma needs some help.
Yeah.
And that's right up the road. Y'all in Hendersonville or past Hendersonville? But still in Sumner County. Y'all in Gallatin yet? Yes. Okay, that ain't that far.
Well, let me know.
Yeah, no, you go find her. You don't know. Yeah. You go find her and you ask her what she needs.
After this is done, I will give you my email.
Okay.
Thank you.
And and I promise just like that. You take care of yourself, you take care of the people, they will always take care of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
My name is Nelson Harper. I'm originally from Nashville. I was born and raised here in Nashville. My mother and father, my mother's Mimi Harper, she's here. We moved to Gallatin. I know Miss Brinkley and Mr. Brinkley there. I went to school with their sons. I recently moved to Culleoka, where my mom was born and raised there. And my grandmother told me, sitting on the porch, that one day when I'm dead and gone, this is going to be for you to carry on. And at the time, I didn't know what she was talking about. Yeah. When she passed away, I was sitting on the porch and I was like, now what you want me to do? Yeah. So I started researching family history. My mom always shows me the school that she went to. It's still standing in the community. It's Rosenwald Schoolhouse.
Oh, wow.
great uncle here. His mother was actually the cafeteria lady. She cooked food. And so I got a lot of family history here at the school. I know who owns the property. I've looked it up on the Tennessee registry for how much the property's worth. They might be willing to sell it, I'm not sure. We just need to contact them. They have recently moved out of the property. I have a picture here.
That's beautiful.
Where
Oh,
a tree
wow.
has fallen on the property.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow, Bessie.
Oh, no.
And in that schoolhouse, it was a stage.
Can we pass this around?
Yes, you can.
Laminate.
It was a stage and a piano that was there when my mom and my uncle, my great uncle, were in school. It's still there. The stage is still intact. The piano's still there. A family bought it. Like I said, I have that information available. We're looking for some help to somewhat to buy it, to restore it, and need to know. I have listened to you talk and tell me how we can go about that.
Yeah.
I have some more pictures.
You brought them all.
Oh, yes, of course. I love it. When I tell you I love my people.
Those are gorgeous.
Y'all, I love black people. We are very consistent if we are nothing else. We're going to be like, I have everything. I love it. And these are gorgeous photos. I mean, these are, please y'all look at these
The
photos.
students, when they were in school in 1947, I believe it was.
Would help, Bessie. Thank you, sir. Ooh.
Somebody.
Oh, my.
These are phenomenal photos.
Jocelyn.
And can I just, oh my goodness. Y'all, can I just ask you, I'm going to answer you, the short answer to your question is let's just talk afterward.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be too complicated
Yeah.
for the whole. But can I just, this is
beautiful.
I was watching Channel 8 NPT television, and they were doing Tennessee Crossroads, and a company called West 7th Company had bought Orman Studios in Columbia, Tennessee, and they were producing these pictures, putting them on canvas. So I started buying pictures, me and my mom, and I found out my great uncles were on the football team there at College Hill. They're pictured in this picture from 1949.
Wow. We need to put this on the community curation site.
One was older than the other, so one was on the varsity team, one was on the junior varsity team. So there, in 1946, the oldest brother was pictured on the football team there in Columbia at College Hill High School.
You see that messy before you pass it around? I love old
Can I
football
just,
pictures.
I'm having,
That picture there, if I'm not mistaken, that's College Hill.
Cheer Squad.
Cheer Squad, right.
That is the most beautiful one out of
It is, and I'm sitting here a bit emotional because if you think about 1949, when people think about black folks in 1949 in the South, the stories that are told are so sad. But we're doing whole cheers.
Yeah.
Whole cheers. And you know, somebody was
Choreography.
like, Bobby Jean, no, it's your left, not your right. Like, you know that. It took a minute to get this routine together. Come on, Willie, stop it. Like, this is so beautiful.
And then they had to hold the pose.
Yes, they did. Come on, Myrtle, get this right. Get Ethel together. Let's go over our steps. I love this. I'm just so grateful. So the answer to, we can talk a little bit more about the land transaction.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like with the building being impacted, you know, I heard some artifacts and I heard the building, it's a lot of moving pieces. But can I just encourage all of y'all, what are the dates of community curation again?
October 1st through the 31st. We'll get you the information. My question is, where are the originals? Who has the originals? Who holds the rights to all of this?
West 7th Company has actually sold to a private individual. Debbie Shaw has that information.
Okay, great. Well, we can chat about that too, because I want to make sure as you preserve that you also are treated in an equitable
Absolutely.
way. So it's
Absolutely.
great to get support and help, but we want to make sure where these negatives are and
Yep.
where the originals are and who has those.
The negatives, the ones that are in that shoebox back behind the bedroom and the guest room, go ahead, start finding those, please, because Doretha's gonna be, Dr. Williams is gonna be here.
Yeah.
And even with those artifacts, like, please, there's so much we throw away.
Yeah,
Because we just don't know. Because how many people know historians?
yeah.
How many people know the folks that are doing this? This is beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
It's, I mean, beyond. Go ahead, pass this
Yeah,
one
pass
around.
these before we take them.
I know we probably at time, Ms. Minor Harris. Oh, she's getting it.
I will say one thing, that I'm really glad that this luncheon today is intergenerational, because that's another thing that we didn't get to talk about the really importance of conversations, intergenerational conversations and connections, because this is really important to do, to connect our elders with our young people so that the value of the history is maintained.
Yeah.
Can you say more about that? Because that was my question to you. I'm a history buff and I love history, but as I've worked with various groups, there's a disconnect between the elders and the youth. But I speak to youth and they want to know the history.
Yes, yeah.
But then the elders are like, where are the youth? How can we continue our legacy, because we're running out of time?
Yeah.
So do you all have best practices? I mean, I'm just excited because when I first started this work, I didn't know you all. I didn't see you all. I didn't see your faces. And now that I see you all, I mean, it just fills me with so much pride. And I'll probably start crying here in a minute, but it's just like, I just want to applaud you all for what you're doing. But yeah, do you all have any best practices on bridging the gap between the next gen and the elders?
One thing that we do through community curation is when we're at a site, we always work with students. We are very intentional with we're normally working with undergraduate students intentionally for that. I don't know if there are any more pictures you can pull up, but when we were in New Orleans, we worked with Grambling Southern, Xavier, and Dillard. Dillard was our physical host. My apologies, anyone in here from Dillard. And one thing that we did is we intentionally reached out to students. And I'll send photos out if we get a chance to do that. But we have photos, I don't know if they're in there, of us, the team, teaching the students how to digitize, to the point that they basically kicked us out and continue to do so, and then taught other students. So that's one intergenerational thing that we do that's very specific when we do our programs, is make sure we're working with students and sharing that history. So that is one thing and then of course we do our genealogy programs when we're on the road, and we intentionally reach out to the high schools with the associations and what have you and bring them in. But the student population is something that we can do within the program, and we bring those students in. They learn the work, they learn the history while we are there.
And I'll just say, y'all, in terms of this oppression stuff, like, there's all the people arguing about wokeness and CRT in classroom, but real simple. Like, we live in a white supremacist, capitalist, patriarchal system, point blank, period. It's in the air, right? So, of course, like, white supremacy doesn't just live in white bodies. White supremacy lives in black bodies, too. Patriarchy doesn't just live in male bodies. Patriarchy lives in women's bodies, too, right? And capitalism, my God. What a consumer country we are, right? So when it comes to, there's all these very like abstract pie in the sky pieces, but how it manifests is person to person, right? When we're dealing with, why do you get so impatient with that person? Why are you so frustrated? Let us teach you how to use an iPhone, please. Please let us teach you how to use the Microsoft Office suite. We're not just being unnecessarily new. We're trying to those of us who are younger are trying to utilize the technology that we've been given in order to make things preserve into the future. So it ain't gotta be a physical sign-up sheet every time. Let us do a Microsoft Office form, please. Like, we're not trying to fight you.
Yeah.
And then similarly, sometimes it is, hey baby, get off that TikTok. Let me show you how to do this thing the old school way. And when we get frustrated and we get impatient with each other, like I have a general rule, if I'm experiencing irritation, because that happens, let me determine if it is because this other person is irritating me or because I am irritable. And if there's even 5% I am irritable, because sometimes it's like, nope, that person is definitely irritating me. But if it's 5% but I'm a little irritable, that's why I'm not on my square, I need to go sit in a quiet place and figure out why I'm so irritable and reconcile myself to myself so that way I can come back with a loving heart, even if that love has to have correction and enforcement of boundaries and accountability.
Yeah.
There's a different thing when we're holding each other accountable from a place of love versus when it's, I'm gonna put you in your place. I'm gonna get you together. I'm gonna show you. When we feel like I'm gonna show you, that's really us manifesting our trauma onto each other because we're passing on what we have been given.
Passing on.
And that's a lot, that's hard. I've been dealt real dirty by black women in my career. Some of the most violent experiences I've ever had have come from black women who I thought were my mentors.
Yeah.
But really, they saw me being free, saw me living experiences and enjoying the benefits that they didn't have access to. And it was, how dare you?
Yeah.
And they decided to be the ones to teach me the lesson.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? But even in that, it's hard. But I have had to learn to love them and forgive them because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And gotta deal with them. So really, it all comes back to us as individuals, working through this stuff, learning how to love each other, learning how to heal ourselves as we heal our communities.
Yeah.
God bless you on your journey.
What you're saying is I want to stop you right and get you to talk more about that. If you're thinking about generations learning history and all of that, there are conversations and issues you need to resolve before you can get there. Yeah. When we think of, I come from a family, we live really long. My grandfather was 102 when he died. My grandmother was 103. I still got two great aunts who are 99 and 100. And when I try to get them to talk more about their history, so much comes out. And I realize we have to resolve issues before we can transfer that history. My great aunt Thelma, who's just turned 99, there was 15 born, 13 that lived into adulthood. She was the one who was forced to cook and clean. And I went to go visit her a handful of years ago, and I was telling her about, she lives in Toledo, Ohio. I was telling her about the great aunt that I grew up closer to in Kansas City, my great aunt Elma. Aunt Elma was a dressmaker, and she had her own shop. She was fabulous. But she started doing that at a very young age. So I was telling my great aunt Thelma, I just remember hanging out with great aunt Elma, and she would make us fried bologna sandwiches. You would have thought I said Aunt Elma beat us. She was like, fried bologna sandwiches. Now, great aunt Elma died when I was in high school. Her sister been dead, right? And she starts going in on her sister, and I'm just like clutching my pearls. And she said, Mother never made her learn to cook or clean. She's still dealing with that anger of being the one who had to cook and clean, but Elma could sew, so Elma went and sewed and didn't have to do that.
So she's serving the baby fried bologna sandwiches.
How you drove up here? Someone's gonna come to your house and make you a fried bologna. I mean, she went off, and I'm like in the corner, like I'm unearthing this this butting of heads of sisters. One has been dead more than 20, 30 years, and one is like, I guess she was like 95 at that time. So when we think about passing on the history and our young people involved, our elders able to talk about it, there's so many conversations that you may have to have first. Especially when those generations are close. Like, I feel it's easier in my family to have like a grandparent and a grandchild conversation, because there's there's a love and sweetness with grandmama and grandbaby. Sometimes when you got that parent in between, and you're dealing with how grandmama taught or dealt with your mother, and you're in the middle of that. So when thinking about preserving these histories and your family genealogy, you may have to have those really difficult conversations first before you can create a path to sharing that information.
Yeah. Fabulous. I know we're running out of time. A quick question. I'm Ricardo Guthrie. I work at the Social Justice Center here, and I teach in the master's program in social justice, and been honored to work with Dr. Imani. Thank you. And with my new friends, DeLisa, and of course our Smithsonian representative, Doretha, thank you. What we use for best practices in social justice is food, fun, and fantasy. Food, working with Joan Clayton, growing a garden, young and old. They can do it. People like to work in the dirt. Fun, sports, games, dances, right? Fantasy. We had Erica Alexander come up here and speak about her films. Yeah. And then a week ago, we had her in Arizona. She has a homecoming in Winslow and Flagstaff. She had young and old, because her parents raised her in Winslow, right? But she was doing, what, acting workshops with young and old.
Yeah.
So food, fun, and fantasy that brings people together. I'll add film, okay, to that. But my question would be, along those lines of food, fun, fantasy, and film, how do you do this thing where the curation is fun?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work, right?
Yes, it is a lot of work.
But how do you make it fun so that that's the part that you're funding, so that we get the next generation to say, you know what, I knew nothing about Rosenwald, but now here's our experts.
Yeah.
And they're younger than me. So
I'll say, I look at history like it's yesterday's gossip pages.
Yeah.
I be looking for the mess.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking, and I'm always asking that question. Like, I was in Newport, Rhode Island, where there's these beautiful mansions, like the Manson District. I'm new to this. Some of y'all may already have known this. And so I was like, if it's it's where the Gilded Era, like where the Rockefellers and the Carnegies went when they were summering away from New York City. And so I was like, look at all these beautiful mansions. There's no way these white people kept up these mansions by themselves. And if there were black people there, where was the juke joint? There had to be a juke joint. I want to know where it is, right? And for me, that notion of fun, that I make a point to experience my full humanity. I stretch out, I make no apologies for every, any AAAM conference or homecoming. I'm absolutely on the floor doing the wobble, absolutely. Because I think that's a part of the practice. And then, because I am living a full human experience, my ancestors 100 years ago also had to have lived a full human experience. So then I ask these questions beyond them being like archetypes in my mind. I'm searching, so for me, that search for the evidence of their full humanity, where's your side piece, Unc? Where's that secret family? I want to know, because it existed. And I also really strive to have no judgment on it. Yeah. I think it's easier to look at people's human frailties and have judgment on it, because we look at, like, for example, Martin Luther King and his side pieces. Like, people get really tight about that. But he was a man on the road, and he was fine. Like, it's fine. Like, it's cool. Like, of course. He was a Baptist preacher. Think about it. Like, and when you lighten it up, but when we see him, like, he's supposed to be the savior. He's supposed to be Martin Luther King. He was also a dude from Atlanta. Come on, quit playing. So I think that's, for me, what brings the fun into it.
Yeah, yeah. I agree that that holistic look is very important. It does give the depth and the substance to the work. There are programs when we're on the road. I'm going to get all this information wrong because it's been so long, and I realized it was before the pandemic, and my brain's not going to work. But we did a program in Chicago at an urban garden spot. What was the name of it? I'm not going to pull you into my mess in my brain. I'm going to let you go ahead and not be in that. I know. But it was a specific place where young people in Chicago went to learn to garden. It was an urban garden. And so we took one of our programs there, one of our genealogy programs, and it was so intergenerational. We had so many different generations learning about oral history, talking to elders, but we were in their element. Like, it wasn't like we took them to, a classroom on a campus. They were already there, and they were comfortable, and they were comfortable in the space. They were working in the garden. The conversations with the elders and the children, they were organic, and they just came and they just developed. So yeah, one thing, just making sure the young folk are in comfortable spaces. Sometimes we do ask them to be more engaged in really horrible spaces, It takes me back to church. I don't know if you ever, hopefully most churches now have like nurseries or whatever, but I don't know if you've ever attended a church where everyone's like, everyone's going to be in the sanctuary, and I was like, what? 4-year-olds, they can listen? No, they really can't. So sometimes I think we put young people in situations where we ask them to be in communication and whatever, and it's just not it's not a safe space, really, and it's not a comfortable space. Yeah. So when we're on the road, we try to make sure, like, where else can we be in the community to go to folks and make sure that they are comfortable to be able to, start talking about their family history and bring that fun and that holistic imagination to it. Like when we were in New Orleans and the students were digitizing the the Christian Advocate, the Southeastern Christian Advocate. I'm gonna get that wrong. Southwestern, and they were in there like, whoa. Well, and they were reading the dirt about.
Always a mess.
It's always a mess. And they're like, they called out this minister at this parish, and you could just hear them, having a good time with the history as they're preserving it. So just letting those organic moments flow, but making sure people are comfortable where they are to share their history and their experiences.
Well,
I have no idea what time it is. I'm on a time war.
Yes, so we're at our time here, and I did want to allow for a little introductions. First, I just want to thank our panelists again, Dr. Doretha Williams, Dr. Jocelyn Imani. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate both of you coming here back to your alma mater and speaking to this community. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the invite. Yes.
So to get our legs stretched and get us ready for the next session, we're gonna do a little, we can stand up and just kind of stretch a little bit, and then I'm gonna start with some tables up here, and we can just introduce ourselves, our community groups. If one person just wants to represent where they're from, just so we can get an idea of who's all here and who's attending our symposium today.
Yay! All right. Okay.
We can start over here to my right, the first table. Yeah, Dr. Kimbrough.
Can we leave now? All right. We can depart the stage.
Oh yes, you can. Okay. You can now leave the stage. Thank you. You can now leave the stage.
I have
So that was Dr. Kimbrough Hamilton, and she's here. She has a really amazing scrapbook from her father who played in the Negro Leagues, and she's here to learn more about how to preserve that.
My name is Ann Pratt. I'm a Fiskite, and I'm also a new adjunct faculty here at Fisk in the psychology department. So I'm back in my alma mater. This is fantastic. So I'm just jumping right in as an individual with all of the history. I'm so excited to be back in Nashville. And I mean, it just feels just the feeling that I'm getting from being in the Appleton room, you know, just being on Fisk campus, I just feel energized and renewed. And I just thank everyone from the Rosenwald Schools for being here, sharing those lovely pictures and artifacts. It's just very enriching. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
My boss lady is already sort of sidelined and mentioned me in the margins, which I appreciate. I'm part of the team from Smith Center that will be coming here. My name is Angela Wonderman, and it's meetings like this that remind me of why we do what we do. I'm excited to be coming back in 2 weeks.
Thank you. And then next table, we'll go down the side. You all want? You don't have to if you want to share where you're from or. Oh, yeah.
All right, my name is Nancy Gregg, and I'm from East Tennessee, and I work with the Rosenwald School Foundation here in Dallas.
Hey, Nancy. And the next table, anyone there want to share where they're from? Someone we all know.
Okay, I know most of y'all here. I've worked with you over the years. I'm Dan Glass, the director of the Center for Historic Preservation of Middle Tennessee State School. And thankfully you remember well, I'm sure, the day I brought Alice Rosenwald to Rosenwald School. We visited about 20 years ago. So good to see you.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Mary Humphrey, and I'm also from Middle Tennessee State University. I have researched and written about Rosenwald schools, been to many if not other schools here in the state. And yeah, I remember I still have that picture of Alice Rosenwald.
Thank you.
I'm Ken Nance. I work at the Tennessee Division of Archaeology, and I've been working on an archaeological survey of Tennessee's Rosenwald Schools. So I've visited about 320 or so Rosenwald sites. And I'll be speaking tomorrow and talking about the survey and how we do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Susan Knowles, and I just wanted to go way back in history and say that when I first heard these Rosenwald records were here was from one of my colleagues at the Archives of American Art in Washington. And so they knew this national story was here in these records that you all are now bringing out into the public. And that's 40 years ago. So thank everyone here for their contributions to what is now
Thank you, Susan. Table back there, next table along the wall. A representative or someone?
Yes, I'm Frankie Mitchell, and we're from the Rosenwald School in Cornwall, Tennessee.
Thank you. The next table back there, all the way.
And I also
And a Fiskite. Okay, we're gonna go table. Debbie, you guys want to say hi? I know everybody. Next to Debbie, the table back, all the way back there. This is why we put everybody in the room together. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna kind of snake this way. So my staff, that table right there. You don't have to. It's okay. We'll come. Oh, okay. Thank you. This table right here, with the, yeah.
My name is Mary Jordan, and I am with Rosenwald School. This table, right back to back. I want you to know that I had a friend. I didn't go to Rosenwald because there was an immigration here in 1966. But most of the things at the table did go. I had a dream
All right. Thank you so much. We're gonna go to this table, my Kolioka.
Once again, my name is Natara Garvin, and I'd like for my mother, legal partner, to do the honors, because we have, in this picture here, we have two of the former students that's our picture here.
Wow.
Okay, my name is Lily Harper. So happened, the date on that picture was the year I was born. So I'm not on it. But my uncle, Robert Fitzpatrick, he was on it. He has a sister and two brothers, Lindsay and Giles, and the sisters, Magdalene. They're all on there. And then Gladys, she's on there with her sister. And her neighbor that was standing close to her. And I was there, first through 8th grade. And when you graduated from there in Caliota, you went to Columbia, Tennessee, which was 10 miles on the bus. But that was done every day, 20 miles, round trip. But it was enjoyable in Caliota. My mother went there. And she often told me about the different friends. And it was some that was younger than her was on that picture. But she often told me that my grandmother, which is his mother, was the cook. And the front of the building, it was 2 rooms. One room was 1 through 4. And the lady there, she played the piano. So she had a piano to teach her. And we had a stage. And on Friday, we had a devotional service on Friday morning. But my grandmother cooked, and she had a little kitchen on the front, and it was a big stove. But everybody said Grandma said she could really cook. And one person told me not too long ago, said she could really fry some chicken. Really see about some things. I often have been thinking I'm a little too old to try to get back into getting the school back because someone owns it now. But after sitting here and listening, I got an idea. I think I might start Tuesday morning. But I think Tuesday morning I'm gonna move to work.
All right. Dreaming, dreams.
Everybody at the table that has something to say.
I'm gonna say I'm one of the proud boys, and I'm just glad that I was able. You know, I said it when I'm proud of that. But anyway, there's a lot of memory at this school and I was so happy that my
uncle relative was the teacher, and you had to have a certain number to stay there. So I got drafted my first 2 years here to go to Rosenwald School. And so, but I'm like really in here, I was thinking, I'm just here to support my husband and listen because I'm too old. But if I taught school for over 40 years, I won't be able to 2 or 3 more years. And do some things. And I've enjoyed everything so much. And I'm so glad I decided we live in Indiana now. So I'm glad.
My name is Rosenwald School, and I went to school there also. This is my family. And I was so glad you called me and invited me to come back. So I am looking forward to going to the University of see you.
Okay, we're gonna jump. We're gonna jump over here to this table. I'm sorry, was there somebody else?
I'm just going to say my name is Fiskpatrick, and I'm really enjoying the history, and I'm just glad to have the opportunity to bring my parents to be a part of this.
Thank you. Front table, you can, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Joanna Zuberg, and I work here at the Fisk Library, and I'm the assistant project manager for the Rosenwald project and part of the Big Society. Hi, my name is Amber. I am currently a clinical psychology graduate student here at Fisk University, and everyone has been like a family to me since I came down here, so I feel very welcome. I currently assist on curating metadata for the Flower Guide for Rosenwald. Good afternoon, I'm Natara. I'm the lead web developer for Product and
This table?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Robert Clark, DDS, my PhD on the documentary. And this table is representing 2 Rosenwald schools. I'm looking forward to Dr. West because he's been to the Clark School in Madison, Tennessee. And my wife here, Robert Clark, she's representing the Rosenwald School in Chattanooga. So, like the gentleman in the far table back there, we at Clark, named after Dr. Silas Post, my heritage with. We're trying to repurpose our center to be a cultural museum and community center also. And we do sit on 15 acres, and we have 65,000 square feet of space, and it does belong to us. I am the chairman of the board of directors at Clark School, and this is Johnny Rosenwald. He's our president of the Alumni Association. So we are fully engaged, and I knew I was in the right place today when I heard you say you're going to help us to do our dream. So I am looking really forward to meeting everyone, and don't let me forget, Modern Tennessee geographically sits about 35 miles from West. So that's the family here today that knows some of my family, and it's home. This weekend, I don't know, there's going to be another weekend on beat this weekend. This is what you dream about. So my dream is alive. Well, and so let's keep this thing going because I think we got a road going here.
All right, my name is John Smith. I'm president of Clark Alumni Association, as Dr. Clark mentioned. It was the first high school in the county of Gibson for African Americans. So that's why it's on the National Register of Historic Places. And this is my wife, Deborah Smith. And this is Robert Clark. This is Dr. just text me, ask me what, who the saxophonist is, do I have contact information? I'm only about 16 years old. That's really dynamic. And so I texted him back while I was here, letting him know that I was at Fisk University at a symposium for African American students. So just give them a heads up. We're going to really need something. All right. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I've been introduced twice. My name is Robbie Clark. And I attended this. I did not graduate. And I'd like to say I am great for an great niece of Roland Hayes. And I feel so proud. One of my coming today, but I feel so proud to be here again. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I started working chapters. But it wasn't until a few years ago we started bringing elementary school sports. And our friend said something about Roland Hayes out there. And I'm like, no, there's not Roland Hayes out there. It's over here. And it's going to be, and it is a Rosenwald School. So I'll be back. I will. I think it became something else that turned me up into something else. But when I get back, I will definitely do some investigation. And the neighborhood people that went to that city had a reunion, so I'm going to crash their reunion because I just had never even heard that, there was a local incident. So that made me very proud. But I enjoyed everything, and I'm so energized. And I even sensed there's a group that on Facebook called Black Owned Farms. And they are always asking about information, to what they can do with the land, or how to acquire things. So I've already sent them a picture of the information, so they can further investigate.
Thank you. Roland Hayes, also a Fiskite. Yes, Fisk Jubilee singer. So next table, I know, yeah, go ahead.
I know she said something, but I just want to stand and say I have a daughter who graduated from Fisk and grandson who also went to Fisk. This is our president, Mr. Neil Wilson, our great alumni. And I just want to say it's remarkable to me. I don't know how they feel about it. They've been meeting 54 years, twice a year. 54 years.
Next table.
My name is Sylvia, and we are from Rosenwald Schools in Winchester, Tennessee. Working on the West. So you can check us out. We're on Facebook, and our is Talented Couples. You can just go online to our email address. It'll just be townscc@yahoo.com. I will the pictures that the gentleman was showing around. Along with our center. We just want to land out to those kids.
Thank you. We'll jump over to the table back there, Dr. Robinson, and you all, if you all.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Beverly John Robinson. I'm the Director of Faculty Administration here at Fisk University. And I want to tell you that, first, I'm enjoying every moment of this conference. It is stimulating and great and very much enriching from the young ladies that presented and so all of the stories, and that's what she was talking about. We share all the stories, and they just happen, in an organic
something?
You have to understand there, and the table I represent is from Rosenwald School, operating in Loudon, Tennessee. Dunbar was opened in 1923. So this year we will be celebrating 100 years of educating young black children. I have at the table members of Dunbar School, Rosenwald Foundation, one of our alumni, Thomas Martin. The rest are members of the foundation, and we appreciate them all being here. And I look to see what they all told me to say. Dunbar is one of the few standing Rosenwald schools. The school was saved by the St. Peter's Lodge, who the school was going to be closed. They purchased the school for $4,300. And that's why the school is still standing today. We're doing major renovations on it, and it looks as good as it did when I was in school there. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. And we will have a small celebration of 100 years sometime this year. Now, something else I missed, but I'm on the speak today. The dress that you see on the cover, this is my cousin's dress that she wore her first day of school. In the first grade. My mom made this dress for her. So they expected us to wear it first.
Thank you.
My name is Cindy Schultz, and I'm here representing Richard Roden Associates, an architectural historian, and we work with archaeologists and historians to tell stories of places. It's a lot of what we do, and so a lot of our projects are throughout the Southeast. We come across Rosenwald Schools, and we learn more about them. We do run all kinds of different history projects, including the Fisk Memorial Chapel just down the road. So we're eager to hear the stories of the individual people. The spaces are important. The stories are told by people who live in those spirits. So girls get to girls, we're all there. I accept Stafford as historian emeritus. We're from the Rosenwald Museum of Local Center in Russell, Tennessee, and we're excited to learn a lot more about Rosenwald School. There is a Rosenwald School, a local school in Montgomery County. It's always helping us to learn all the stories and how it's so vital to achieve the culture and our community products.
I spoke a little bit earlier with Natara Garvin, associate professor of social justice at Fisk, and we trained some of the people like Joanna to be part of the historical preservation and activism that Fisk is known for. So if you have children, grandchildren, or yourselves who are interested in working at Fisk or being part of the master's degree program, please come and join us because we are all about training the next cohort of John Lewis, Diane Nash, and some of the graduates that come from these schools. My father went to a Paul School in Kentucky, and my grandfather went to Fisk and was the 1927 editor of the Greater Fisk Herald, and 100 years ago this fall I came. And so it's really interesting to see this as a reunion that I don't think people really fully anticipate. One of just coming to look at the old papers, but a reunion of living legends. We call you all a living library, so these people will be able to tell somebody about it.
The next table. Jeff?
I'm Jeff Sellers. I'm the Director of Education and Public Programming at the Tennessee State Museum. And it's just been an honor to help organize so exciting and all. And it's just beginning. We got tomorrow to go too, so it's definitely a lot of fun.
Hi, all. My name is Joyce Nina, and I'm here with this table here, and we're representing the Tennessee State Museum. I want to say personally that I'm incredibly moved by everyone's stories and the discussion we had earlier, and I'm so excited to hear even more as we go on.
Hello, I am Skylar Carter. I am the library assistant here at the Franklin Library on campus. Originally from Oklahoma, so I'm not a Fiskite, but I do have a Fiskite family, so dating back to 1939. So I'm happy to be here and hear your stories, and yeah, enjoy.
Hello, everyone. My name is DeLisa Adams. I am here to support my colleagues, but I also work for the James Lawson Institute for Research and Study of Nonviolent Movements at Fairfield.
Earlier, I did not express that I was not just from Nashville, but we come from, our family was enslaved in Haydenville, Tennessee. We came from Murfreesboro. We got some land in Christiana. Folks got some, so I got with all of your stories. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for you keeping yourself alive. People don't think it's 4 cities in the States. There's so much more. So thank you. Thank you sincerely.
Maggie, okay. Okay, so we're gonna take the break. We, kind of, we're taking. It was a break in a way. We got to know each other, but let's take. How does 10 minutes sound? Does that sound good? Stretch. Maybe open the door to the sun. Get a little warmth on you. Restrooms are back here as well as in the lobby. There's one restroom. But there's restrooms directly behind that. And I also want to say happy birthday to Deborah. Today is Deborah's birthday. So happy birthday, Deborah.
Thank you. My name is Skylar Carter. Again, I am the library assistant in special collections here at the Franklin Library. And I am here to kick off our second part of our symposium today in our second session by introducing our speakers and giving you a little bit of background about them and their experience. Ms. DeLisa Minor Harris is a Fisk alum, as you heard earlier, who returned in 2016 to serve her alma mater after completing her master's degree at the University of North Texas. And after spending 4 years with the Nashville Public Library, she started here at Fisk and has held multiple roles, including the Special Collections Librarian, Assistant Director of Library Services, and now the Director of Library Services. During her tenure at Fisk University, she has curated many exhibits, including Lord, I'm Out Here on Your Word, Fisk Jubilee Singers, Singing from Spirit to Spirit, and written 2 articles published in the enlarged 2-volume set of the Encyclopedia of African American Business, ABC, Clio, and an article in an online magazine, Advocating for Ourselves, a practical guide to advocacy for cultural heritage workers in 2022. In addition, she has co-authored and edited Heritage and Honor, the 150-year story of the Fisk Jubilee Singers with the late Dr. Paul T. Kwame and publishing consultant Tanisha Scott. Furthering her professional insight, she served as an HBCU Library Alliance and Digital Library Federation Authenticity Project Fellows, respectively. In addition, she will complete her fellowship with the Mellon RBS Cultural Heritage Fellowship this year. Throughout this fellowship, Ms. Minor Harris focused on conducting bibliographic research on the rare book collection of Fisk University Special Collections and Archives, known as the Negro Collection, and advocacy with HBCU archives. Her mantra is, to whom much is given, much is required. She values community engagement, working with the community partners
in and around North Nashville to empower students, educators, and neighbors in preserving community, family, and school archives. She has led and participated in community archiving workshops, the Becoming North Nashville photograph exhibit project at MLK High School, the former Pearl High School, and the Fisk University exhibit at the John Early Museum Magnet Middle School, as well as Equity Alliance's training program for Liberty. Additionally, she mentors young girls with the nonprofit Black Girl Lessons Incorporated. She continues to advocate for the John Hope and Aurelia E. Franklin Library, expanding access to collections, including a recent grant through the Mellon Foundation for $1.6 million to digitize the Julius Rosenwald Fund archives, which is our most heavily utilized collection here at Fisk University and across the Southeast. Her goal as the director is to lead the Franklin Library to create a welcoming physical and virtual space for patrons and students who are to meet their information needs as an active and vibrant part of the university's diverse academic community. Our second speaker, our second participant, Latavia Berry, is a talented software engineer with a unique passion for empowering the Pan-African community through emerging technology. She holds a bachelor's degree in communications from Middle Tennessee State University, which she has leveraged alongside over a decade of software development experience to develop innovative solutions for the education and advancement of Pan-African communities throughout the U.S. and Latin America. Latavia's work in empowerment through engineering focuses on emerging technologies, including JavaScript libraries, blockchain, AI, and microcomputing, to create tools and solutions that improve sustainable food security, monetization in remote communities, access to communal mental health resources, and the practice of permaculture. Latavia's technical expertise in JavaScript has enabled her to create elegant and efficient code that is optimized for the latest front-end frameworks and libraries. She is also proficient in back-end technologies such as Node.js, PHP, and MySQL. In addition to her technical skills, Latavia is a natural problem solver with a deep understanding of software development principles. She is an active member of the open source community, where she shares her knowledge and contributes to projects that promote sustainability and accessibility. She is a true asset to any organization that values innovation and social responsibility. When she's not building chatbots and modular synthesizers, Latavia loves beach gazing during the winter months, impromptu trips based on flight deals, and crooning New Jack Swing at the unsuspecting. Please welcome our speakers, Ms. DeLisa Minor Harris and Latavia Berry. All right, well, now that you know me so well, thank you so much, Skylar. So I'm here today to share a little bit about the work that we've been doing and the work that we've been carrying forward. It didn't start with us, and it certainly won't end with us. But so I'm gonna talk a little bit about where we are with building a portal to Rosenwald. And it's like, what is this portal? And so a little bit about the background. We were given a planning grant by the Mellon Foundation to explore what it would look like for the Julius Rosenwald Fund archives to be digitized in whole. Well, let me rewind. What would it look like for the school side of the fund papers to be digitized in its entirety? And then how would we execute that? But as we moved along, we said we really can't do just one thing with this collection, because the whole collection represents so much rich history relating to the schools, to the fellows, and to the people who petitioned the Rosenwald Fund for monetary monetary support for their work. So we have to look at this holistically. So we went on a journey, and COVID happened, and as you all know, everything stopped dead in our tracks. But we were able to, later in 2020, pick up that work again. And it took us some time, and we went through a planning grant and an extension to figure out what it is, the vision, the dream, as Dr. Imani alluded to. What are we dreaming, and what are we envisioning for the future of this collection? So I'm going to talk a little bit about where we are now with our implementation grant and how we're working through that, who's a part of this work, and then we'll have Ms. Berry will do a demonstration for us of what her work looks like on a daily basis, and some of the things that we just have to overcome for this project, and why we're doing this. Why does this even matter? So again, the Rosenwald School Files is a collection that looks at the schools that were built between 1912 and around 1937. And there were about maybe 5,000, a little under that. And initially, we were able to take those files, and Dr. West knows about this, to create a Rosenwald database. And that database is something that you all probably utilized for your research when you were preserving your schools. It held all of the index cards and the images for the fund's archives. And so I'm gonna kind of move forward a little bit. So you remember this? So sweet, so innocent. Also so treacherous, but this project was funded around 2001 through many partners, Cracker Barrel Foundation, Save America's Treasures, the Links organization. So many people were involved in getting this database up, right, on the web. And so it served us for so many years. It helped us imagine what our schools look like, where they might have been, who might have been involved, how much money was involved, all of these great things. And then you come to a point where the technology is no longer applicable or is even usable in a lot of ways. And even from a back-end perspective, so for us, we couldn't add anything, we couldn't update records because access was so limited. And actually, when I started in 2016, there was only one computer you could go to in the library to access the back of this database, which, that's not sustainable. And, long term, if that computer melts down, we're out of luck. And so as we fast forward kind of through to 2020, 2019, we're realizing too that it's supported through our university, and there's a cyber security issue. So when you think about people now who hack into everything and they steal your records, and I know Howard University experienced someone hacking into their infrastructure, and they ransomed all their files. They had to pay a large amount of money to get it back. And this is one of the entry points that hackers could get into the Fisk side of things, is through this database. So we had to have long, hard talks because we are bleeding hearts. In the library, we're like, our community wants this database. You cannot take it down. And so we had a lot of hard conversations about changing. Change is hard, change is difficult. But we knew that we needed to do this for long-term sustainability. We don't want it to just be here for me and you. but for future generations. So again, you know, this is our classic site, and it served us so well. And so additionally, we had hard conversations with the Mellon Foundation, and they were like, well, we'll just kind of fund like this, and we'll do a little bit of this. And we were like, well, that's not gonna work for us. And as Dr. Imani alluded to, there are spaces and places where people have different ideas for you or your projects, but you have to advocate for yourself and say what you need and not be afraid and not ashamed to stand up. And that's what we felt like we had to do. And the Mellon Foundation was responsive, and they heard us. They heard, you know, we pulled together a packet. And we were like, these are the people, you all, the community, who want this site to work, who need this site to work, because the preservation doesn't stop. It's happening now. And so they were kind enough to open their pocket books, and they allowed us to dream. And so what we dreamed up is 4 years, $1.6 million to take on and digitize not only the collection, but also build a new site. And we have a vision, and we know that this is not easy, and I'll talk a little bit about that, but we knew this is what had to be done. And any of you who've seen the collection or felt the collection, you know that a lot of those documents are crumbling, and they might not survive the next 2, 3, 5 years. So it needed to be now. So our 4 years looks a little bit like this. We broke it down based on the collection. So our phase 1 is the school fund. So not just what you saw in the old database, but including the index cards that were never scanned. So there were like file-size index cards that the fund kept on each school. And it also included like some important notes and like different types of nuggets of information that we felt were important. So we wanted to digitize those. And then additionally, there were what we were calling our orphan images, which I don't really like that term, but they were images that existed of schools, but they hadn't been identified. And so they needed to be scanned as well. So we had a lot to pull together. And I'm happy to say that the school side is done. And we're now in phase 2, which is the fellowships. So if you know anything about the Rosenwald Fellows, you had people like Marian Anderson, Roland Hayes, Arna Bontoms, I'm trying to think of Du Bois, everyone you can think of, Black intellectual artist, figure from that time period had a Rosenwald Fellowship. So we're now in that section, working on the fellowship papers. And then we'll go to phase 3, which is people, places, and persons requesting aid. So these are people, Rosenwald not only funded schools, fellows, but they also funded HBCU projects, Black doctors, Black nurses and midwives, and other institutions in the African American community. So those records, you know, people aren't really aware of, but they have such rich details and names and important information. And then lastly, the administration. So the documentation from the fund, you know, what was the business side looking like? Who were they corresponding with? What were the aims and goals of the Rosenwald Fund administration? So what are some of the benefits of this? Why are we even doing this and taking this project on? Well, we're trying to breathe new life into African American history and the history of philanthropy, science, social justice, anything you can think of. We're trying to add into that space and make accessible these records for research. It's good to always come into special collections in the archives room and visit the physical collections, but it's also good to be able to access it from where you are. and this collection needs to be accessed from where you are, anywhere. And then the potential partners, we've already, partnering with the Tennessee State Museum, partnering with the Smithsonian, partnering with so many different people, because it can't just be us who gets this word out and preserves these records, but a collaborative effort by everyone here in this room and in our communities. And then sustainability. That was one of our reasons why our planning grant was extended, because we had to figure out sustainability and infrastructure. And if you deal with tech, or maybe you don't deal with tech, which I don't really do, it takes time and conversations that go over your head. So I'm not a tech person. I'm not engineer, computer science. So we had to figure out, what will this look like on the back end? And so our IT department, conversations with our faculty and consultants was really important. And this is why this project is so important, is because it's changing not only access, but also culture around infrastructure and technology here. So, key components of this project: digitization. So you'll see here, this is one of the orphan schools I was telling you about, images that weren't originally included in the database. And this is from the Augusta Rosenwald School in Shelby County. And the back of the image says, it says, Augusta Rosenwald School in Shelby County, Tennessee, representing consolidation of the Tanyard and Mount Olive schools. This is state-aided consolidation, which can be given to one school only in each county in any 1 year. And it says, Mrs. Ellis, a former teacher and now a member of the Shelby County Board of Ed, is seen in front. She is a graduate of Peabody College. Sorry. Yeah, and so these are the sorts of nuggets of information, things that we want to make sure is out there and accessible, because maybe someone was wondering about the Augusta Rosenwald consolidation in Shelby County, or maybe someone knows Mrs. Ellis, or that was their great grandmother, or anything, someone wants to highlight her for a project. Here's some information to help and assist in that. Again, we talked about the Rural School Fund collection is what our database mostly focuses on, which is the largest part of this collection. And so we've completed that part, and right now we're just looking at a launch date and getting that up for use. Another side of our project is metadata. So this is something that's kind of, if you're not in the space, you wouldn't know this term, but it's basically the information that you find either on the object or describing the object, we put into these spreadsheets. And as you can see, these are one of our spreadsheets. There's a lot of information. So we have a great team who works on metadata so that we can be able to describe in the objects that we put up online in pretty good detail. So I'll just run down our leadership team. That's me, I'm the project director. We're looking for our project manager right now. We have our project assistant, Joanna, who I think had to step out. Our lead web developer is Ms. Berry, and then our director of IT, Brian Garner, assists and consults on the project. So that's us. Hey. You've seen me a lot today. Okay, and then we have our project team, which I love so much, and a lot of them had class because we hire students. So we were having a conversation earlier about young people getting involved in this work, and sometimes a little compensation helps. with getting them in the door. But they do an amazing job, and they're very passionate, and I'm so proud of them. So we have our metadata team and our digitization students, and then our web development team, who's awesome, and they work with Ms. Berry. Oh, I think I missed one. So that's them. Hey! And that's our space in the library on the 3rd floor, where we have a kind of like a factory up there. They're hard at work. But no, they do a great job. I'm so proud of them. And some more of our team. So what is completed? What's done? What can I see? What can I go and Google right now? Slow down. No, we have our school fund completed. Our school cards, images are done. Our transportation applications, which is what you see on the screen, which is something I just love. This is like one of my favorite things from this collection, because Rosenwald funded buses, and not for all schools, but some schools. And these applications are great because on the back, they had to like draw a map, like the bus route. And then they also had to give like a picture. And it's amazing to see the buses and what they look like. So yeah. And then right now our students, like I said, are in the midst of our fellowship boxes, which are about, I think like 60 or 70 boxes. So a lot of work, but we have a great team, like I said. So moving forward, obviously we're getting on that hiring train of a project manager. If you know anyone who is interested in working with digital archives, send them my way. And then we're working towards a spring launch of the school fund. Ms. Berry and I had some hard conversations. And so we're working towards that. And then also completing the fellowship section. And we're just looking at visions and new ideas of ways we can make this project live outside of our library. So it's not just inside the library, but it's other places, and it inspires other people. And so our students came up with some ideas for orientation and ways that they can get excited. I know Dr. Guthrie had a good one, fun, food, and something else. So, yes, fantasy. So I've been thinking a lot about that and ways I can and get them, stayed excited in doing this work. And then just community programming, connecting with you all any ways that we can, and doing different out-of-the-box events and programming to support this work. No project comes without successes and challenges, and we've had some great successes with getting the school fund done, digitized, the metadata done, and having our students on board, creating a space, having a space where we can do this work, and then working with local communities. And really, we have a great workflow that's been going well, and obviously there are challenges. So we face some delays with hiring. We're still working on that administrative support and buy-in. It takes time. And then really marketing, really getting on that social media and hype us up, get the word out. And then, technical issues and delays, which happens on technological projects with, different things that you don't maybe anticipate, but you can work through them. So with that, Ms. Berry's gonna hook her laptop up, and she's gonna do a little demo about her side of the project and the work that she's doing. But I just wanna say thank you again, and please sign up for project updates at rosenwald.fisk.edu. That's our site where the database was, but there's a link there that you can fill out a form to receive updates on our project. So thank you again.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm Latavia Berry. I'm the lead web developer for the Portal Project, the Rosenwald Portal Project. Closer? Okay. Can anybody not hear me? All right. So what we have here is just a very, very early stage structural layout of what we're hoping the website will look like. We have several funds up here, a means to search, a video, and a little about blurb so we know what we're doing here, and a way to access all those other collections. There's a number of funds here that we'll be covering. So one of the biggest challenges that we had when we started the project was that there was no way to upload all of these digital objects at once. We could only do one at a time, or we could pay someone else to do it, or we could use up a bunch of server space. None of those were options, because not only is this a portal for the Rosenwald project, it's also an example that other HBCUs will be able to use. So we needed to figure out a way to do this while also keeping costs low and keeping the tech barrier low as well. Everybody doesn't have a software engineer on staff to do all these things. So what we decided to do is make our own plugin and utilize it within a system called Omeka S. And before this, there was no other solution for this. So not only is this a contribution to Fisk and other HBCUs, it's a contribution to the entire archival community. It's a means for people to take literally terabytes, I mean thousands of files, and upload them all at once to the cloud, which has never been heard of before we did this. So this is just a sample of what will happen. Essentially, you can give it a zip file and it will populate an entire website for you. So we choose a file, and looky here, I made a sample for you guys. You just click next. Here, you have all of the metadata that's included in that zip file. So there's the county, the state, the title. In this case, we're using an example from our school fund. You're gonna import it, and it'll take a couple minutes because, again, we're doing numerous images all at once. So I wanna show you guys there's nothing up here yet. There's no items, website is blank. If I search for Tallulah Falls, there would be nothing. If I search for Georgia, there would be nothing. And up here, the cloud that we're gonna update to, these are old from tests, but essentially there's nothing in here. We haven't actually added anything. If you look at these dates, they're old. It's from August, May, etc. So let's check on our import, see if anything's done. It's still in progress, as you can see here. So I also want to let you guys know that in doing this, it also creates a CSV. Inside this CSV is a link to every image that is uploaded. So not only can you bulk upload, but you can also view the link to every single image you have placed on the cloud. So let's take a look at that CSV. So this is one from a previous test. I uploaded a lot more images for this one, but at the very end, we have links that take us directly to where those images will be located on the cloud. All right, so back to this. Let's see if we're ready. One of these tabs, here we go. Okay, and look, it's complete. So if we go over to items, we can see that there are now 30 new items. All of the images, the title, and the metadata have all been simultaneously uploaded and are ready for view on the website. So if we go over to the actual website, they are all listed here and available to just click and view. All you needed was a zip file to literally populate an entire website. If you do a search, it'll pull up all the results based off that metadata that we uploaded. So here's the image, here's the data, and here's a link to that file on the cloud as well if you ever need that. Similarly, I did a search for Georgia, populated everything here for you. You can view all those results, look at the images, choose anything applicable. While that's happening in the background on the cloud, it created folders for us. So for every one of those original images, it created a large version, a medium version, and a square version. So if we open this up, we can see every single image we uploaded today on September 15th. Similarly, every single one of those CSVs that you create is also available here for reference. If you ever need to go back and figure out which metadata went with which image and where the image is located on the cloud, it's all available to you right here. So this is what we have so far. This actually eliminates a massive amount of spending that was being done to pay someone else to do these uploads. Now it can be done automatically with a free plugin that we have created and offered up to the public, obviously to other HBCUs, they're the most important, but also to the public. Thank you.
So we're gonna open it up for some questions. If you'll come to the front, to the microphone. If you have any questions.
Where exactly did you all get these images from?
Yes. So the images in our collection came directly from the fund. And when the fund closed in the 40s, the collection came to Fisk. So little known fact that most people don't realize is that the Rural School Fund operated out of Nashville. So the agents that worked with the schools in different states were headquartered here in Nashville. And so we had a strong connection and relationship with Sam L. Smith and Edwin Embry, with Charles S. Johnson, who was our first Black president of Fisk. And so, as well as Arna Bontemps, who was our librarian during that time. And so the fund's archives came here to Fisk.
The reason I ask because in Murray County, they have a county archives, and their collection is so vast that in one day I couldn't look up everything. And I was just wondering, like, there's so much information, like Murray County, let's say they had 5-6 schools. You all don't have access to that unless you go to Murray County Archives, correct?
Well, so our collection is not exclusive. There are other archives that hold records on the schools. So you'll find archives for your school probably at a local in the county or at the state library and archives. And we just have what the fund had. So we don't even have everything on the schools. So like applications, for example, are not in our collection. We don't have any school applications. And part of the reason was there was like file retention where most of the files went back to the states and the departments of education in those states. So yeah, it varies. So you shouldn't limit your search to Fisk, but expanded search.
Now I got another question. I was reading where Julius Rosenwald, he was like a administrator for Sears and Roebucks. So what I seen in the Murray County Archives is that the actual building itself, the materials came from Sears and Roebucks. So it kind of threw me off, and I'm like, he was a real smart businessman. He would help fund the school, and also that in turn they would buy the material from Sears and Roebucks.
So the early schools were built under Tuskegee. So a lot of the materials, the architecture, and the early one-room schools, two-room schools, I think is mostly what they did, was the materials came from Tuskegee. After there was a split and the fund completely took over the building of the schools, in the catalogs of Sears and Roebucks, they had what you could order was like a model home or something like that. And so I think that sort of practice in that business kind of maybe rolled over.
So that's where it kind of came from, because I noticed in the archives in Murray County, in Culleoka, a lot of the houses that were built in the 1920s were Sears and Roebuck packages that came out.
Yeah, you'll find that people did order their home. Something I learned from the Aviva Kempner film when she did the documentary on Julius Rosenwald, but yeah. Thank you. And also too, I didn't get a chance, but this project that we're doing also has an advisory board of people that are closely related to the work of Rosenwald and have been, including Dr. Hopshwelly, who's here. So, and there were, I think there was one other person here from the board, but thank you, Dr. Hauschwili. We just had our first board meeting in May, and it was insightful, and there was a lot we took away from there of things we could do and potential for the project. And so we're working with other partners like at Tuskegee, the Tuskegee Archives, which is amazing, Dana Chandler, and some other institutions to try and really bring the story of, that's in pieces across the country, together in a good way. So, any other questions, comments? Yes.
Could you talk a little bit more about the work that the student workers are doing, and especially as it relates to what Batavia just showed us with the demonstration, what the students are doing and what their backgrounds are? Are they interdisciplinary? Are they all computer science students, or where they come from?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, our students, I love to talk about our students. Our students are amazing. Most of our student workers, let's start with the metadata team. So as I showed you that slide with the spreadsheets, who wants to work with spreadsheets? Well, we have our computer science students who are, and our data science students who are working and learning about that field in their studies. And so this type of project gives them more, not only training, but also introduces them to the work they could be doing in the space of galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. So, they're thinking about, I'm gonna go work at Google or, wherever, and in the tech space, but they're not understanding that their work applies to the cultural heritage space. So we also have, for our digitization team, a lot of them are interdisciplinary. Some are biology majors, chemistry, and then again, data science and computer science. And they're learning a skill that they would have probably never come to without this job, but it's also preparing them again in the case of, I thought I was gonna work at Facebook, but there are no jobs, or they're laying off people. But there are jobs in humanities and these sectors of preservation. So that's the type of work that we're doing with our students. And again, they're amazing. And then Ms. Berry can talk about her students.
So the development students have both interned at Google and Microsoft. The work that they're doing is specifically centered around DevOps. There's a little bit of PHP. For the most part, they're solving problems that would reduce cost and reduce the tech barrier to entry the other HBCUs. So the focus of everything they're doing, for the most part, is how can we make this work more efficiently and at a lower cost?
Thank you.
Send your grandchildren to Fisk. No. Any other questions, comments? Yes.
So my name is Trinisha, and I work on the Rosenwald School over at the State Museum. So I got to work with Skylar and Yana and DeLisa on this project, and I know how hard you guys work and how much work has gone into this, and it's been a long time coming. So can you talk a little bit more about what your dream is for this website and how you see it being used afterwards?
Yeah, so the dream is real, it's alive. No, really, my dream comes through, I stand on the shoulders of those who came before me. So my former boss, Dr. Jessie Carney Smith, Mrs. Beth House, who's no longer with us, Miss Ann Allen Shockley, those women who for years and decades worked to preserve these records. And like I said, in 2001, built an amazing database that has been usable for over 20 years. And so my dream was that it carried forward, but it also expanded to include not just, one part of Rosenwald Schools or one community, but everybody. Everybody gets a chance to contribute. Everyone can, write into us and say, I was thinking maybe this, or, some way that we create a community space online that's not just in digital archive, but it's a living thing. It lives, it breathes, and it maintains throughout generations, prayerfully, hopefully, and that we can, it'll go forward for our students, our, maybe our future students who are not here. So that's the dream, and that it keeps this train of preservation going, this work that everyone has done. The Webb School, who meets every week, every 2 weeks, who has their alumni events. The Colioca School, who's figuring out who's going to have that dream. So that is what we hope to do and support that work. And with this new site, it'll hopefully do just that. Yeah, does that answer your question? Thank you. Okay.
Nobody wants to know about code?
PHP, please?
Right.
I saw a hand. Yes.
Is your website up and running right now, or is it something?
No, it's on its way. No, this is a 4-year project. So we just finished our first year. So in the first year, we were hitting speed bumps, left and right. We were like, we got to figure this thing out. And I think we're finally on a good footing. Yeah, the coming soon is up again at rosenwald.fisk.edu. You can sign up for updates because we do want to push that out when we're ready to launch. So we don't want to just put it up and then it falls apart. Like, we want to be intentional about the work we're doing, and we want to make sure that this works and that people are getting what they need from the site. So it's taking us some time. We were ambitious. We were like, oh, we're going to have a launch year 1 and year 2, and we're just going to launch away. And it's like reality hit. And it's like, well, but again, we have the support of the Mellon Foundation, our partners and collaborators, and a great team. So we're going to keep going, and we're going to let you know, because we want to see those numbers go up and up and up, clicks, clicks, clicks.
Just one question with that. So as the website's being developed, I understand that means that it's going to be scanned and digitized, but are there any finding aids online now for collection that folks who might be interested in knowing what material might be in there, so when it is online, they can research?
Yeah, so one thing that we are going to work on, and this may be news to people in the room, but we're going to work on updating our listing, our finding aids that are currently on for the Julius Rosenwald Fund collection. Some of the work that we've been doing is kind of figuring out, it was processed a really long time ago. And for those who are not librarians or archivists in the room, when it was organized and arranged, it happened back in the 60s, I think. And so we really haven't updated our collection listing and finding aid. So that's something that is a part of this too.
This is more of a comment. I wanted to say that the plugin that was created is very impressive, and I think it'll be a great resource for people. Kudos.
Yes.
One thing that we're trying to do now that I'm doing more now is capture some video of students who attended the original Rosenwald School. In Canada, I think there's 4. Very, very small group of people who've done that. One of them, they did have to do their own thought about that. And you mentioned you were in school, one of those folks who runs for Fly along.
Yeah, no, kidding. No, I will say yes. I mean, we think about it often, and this is part of the reason why we wanted a new site, is because that we realize we're a small shop. right, as in archives and special collections. And we were getting people sending us like, no, this is about my school, or this is the information I have, and this is not right, or this is correct. But what I envision for the new site is that people will be able to submit those sort of questions or information about the different schools, and maybe even possibly media. But again, with this type of project, we've only kind of made a pathway for the digitization and getting the site going, which takes, I wish not so much time, but time. And that's the 4 years we have. But we're definitely looking beyond to that. There's nothing else. Our reception hors d'oeuvres are here. And I won't hold us any longer. I want to thank everybody. Thank you. Ashley, did you want to offer some closing remarks? Are you okay?
I'll just say we'll see you tomorrow to continue the discussion, but just thank you, DeLisa, for the outstanding day. And it's just amazing. And I just enjoyed the conversation and being part of this and part two. At the Tennessee Safety Center. Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, tomorrow, it starts at 9, right? Okay. Yeah, at the Tennessee State Museum. So again, we have a small reception right now, mix and mingle, and some hors d'oeuvres. And so I will figure out if the catering staff is here.